Hey everyone, it's November 15th, 2023. Welcome to another BRAP. We are live and we've got a lot to talk about. We have the Game Awards, biggest snubs, the Xbox tax. Is that fan fiction? PlayStation 5 top sales charts, and we're going to take a trip back to memory lane on a particular platform console that just turned 2020, not 2020, just turned 22 years old. And I want to talk about that console. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time. But let's go ahead and get the show started right now. All right, everyone. Big shouts to everyone in the live chat. Please do me a quick favor. Smash that like button. Helps the channel out. If you're new and you like the content that you're listening to, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Also, just drop the link in the chat. Please feel free to tweet out the link or X or whatever it's called, or share it on your favorite social media platform as well. Let everyone know that we're live. So, before we get to the topics, I do want to make a quick introduction here. We do have a first-time guest, somebody I just happened to connect with on Twitter or X, and we're having some dialogue about the Game Awards. And I think he listens to Crossfire because he mentioned Crossfire. So we'll go ahead and I extended the invitation to have him on. And so give a big BRAP welcome to first-time guest here, Spugdreddy. I hope I'm saying that. Spugdreddy, I think it is, right?
Yeah, Spagdreddy. Yeah, it runs with my name's Andretti, so it kind of rhymes.
Oh, okay. Spagdreddy. Okay, gotcha. All right. So so Spagdreddy, thank you for coming on the show. I know you mentioned you listen to Crossfire. I don't know if you listen to Crossfire every Friday. But I don't know if you've listened to BRAP before.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so no, it's certainly great to have you on the show. So thank you for joining us this evening, and then the rest of the panel will be joining us here shortly as well. So before we get into some of the other bigger topics tonight, I did want to discuss the original Xbox 22 years ago, and I can't believe it's been 22 years. The original Xbox console launched here in the US, and I was actually Spagdreddy and I were talking about our experiences with the original Xbox, and actually I was having a conversation with Aaron Greenberg on Twitter actually just before we went live about the original Xbox and being an Xbox Live beta tester. And Aaron says he remembers the beta test with Revolt and NFL Fever, and those are some great memories. I mean, Xbox at the time, and as I shared with Spagdreddy before we went live, a lot, and I think a lot. It's probably good for me to, reinforce this point, or give people some context on my criticism of Xbox today. That it doesn't stem from like me hating Xbox. I don't hate consumer products. I always find that kind of weird when people say they hate something. I'm like, why would you hate a consumer product? Like, did it hurt you? Did it rob you? Maybe in some cases, maybe a company robbed you because they delivered a product that wasn't up to snuff or wasn't marketed correctly. But I never. But no, it doesn't come from hate. It comes from previous experience and my own personal what I want from a platform. It comes to that, and sometimes look at some point. At any point, if you've been if you've been a consumer, we're all consumers, but some of us may have had that experience where maybe we enjoy a platform and then that platform deviates from what we want, what our requirements are for that particular platform, and then we go elsewhere. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So it doesn't come from a place ahead. People often accuse me of that. And so as Spagdreddy and I were discussing the original Xbox, my criticism from it comes from or not the original. I don't have criticism of the original Xbox. My criticism of Xbox today comes from the original Xbox, the Xbox 360 days, and I probably say maybe early, year 1, year 2 of Xbox One. And we kind of we mentioned this earlier before we went live, Spectre, like Xbox One seemed, despite the controversy around it, from a games perspective, I thought they did a very good job with the launch, and then it's almost like you said. I think you said the bottom just fell out.
It just, I mean, I've honestly, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it. Like, I mean, maybe with the Sega Saturn, but that console in general wasn't a great console. The Xbox One, other than, there was the online only and the Kinect thing, which wasn't great. But man, the launch titles were undeniable. I mean, you had to be there to play some of those games, and the sales reflected it. There was a lot of people enjoying and playing those games. But shortly after, I mean, it fell out from, I don't think they were prepared. They were kind of riding the success of the 360 and into the Xbox One. They had a little bit of that momentum, but they just didn't have a great plan. And it really was disappointing because PlayStation, after the PS3, got off to a slow start. People forget the PS3 ended up, by mid-generation, I would say the PS3 was a really good console to be on. But PlayStation, they took it and they started sprinting, and Microsoft really dropped the ball with the Xbox One, and it was super disappointing.
Yeah, and I think Phil Spencer has been on record saying that that's a generation that you didn't want to lose, because that was the first digital generation.
It was.
Where gamers started building their digital libraries. It's kind of hard to, I think, turn your kind of, leave that, when you've invested so much in digital content.
Yeah, and that's what Nintendo has to answer right now. Like, the Switch has so many games, 7 years on the market. People have so many games on that library, so backwards compatibility is going to be huge. And it's hard to get people to, PlayStation 4 had everything you needed: multiplayer games, exclusives, a really good performing console, hardware upgrade options. So that was, like Phil Spencer said, the one generation you couldn't lose. PlayStation had almost lost the 360 generation. They ended up winning barely, but even if they had lost that one, it would have been fine, because that was before digital gaming exploded. And then, they won the most important generation.
Yeah, no, they really did. But yeah, to go back to the original Xbox, as we were discussing before we went live, and the conversation I was just having with Aaron Greenberg on Twitter, where Aaron brought up Revolt, and I remember playing Revolt as an Xbox Live beta tester, and really staying up, in the late hours, past midnight, almost daily, playing this game, and meeting a lot of the friends that I have on my Xbox Live friends list today are people that I met during the beta, and I remember being part of an Xbox Live clan where we played competitively with nothing like esports related per se, but because this is before esports, but we were doing, I mean, there was websites that were Xbox fan dedicated websites. If anyone remembers Team Xbox, it's actually one of my favorite Xbox websites. And there was another one. And so some of these websites, these smaller Xbox websites, would have like clan ladder tournaments for games like Return of Wolfenstein or Wolfenstein. And that was one of the first first person shooters. Maybe it was I think it was a third person shooter that was on Xbox Live. This is post beta, when Xbox Live finally rolled out. But that was one of the first games that we played that was online and had not matchmaking, I'm sorry, but you could do 4-on-4. And there were different types of modes. I think stopwatch is one of the modes that we played on Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And we would have these ladder matches, these clan tournaments with other Xbox Live clans from different gaming forums and things like that. So it was really, I think, and you probably would agree with me, Spectretti, that it was revolutionary in a lot of ways. Yeah. It was nothing that we've ever done in consoles.
It was groundbreaking. I mean, what they were able to, and this is, at that time, people have to remember, Microsoft was seen as this generic, ergonomic, like boring, but it works. Xbox was kind of like showing that Microsoft can be cool. I mean, some of the stuff, and I encourage everybody to watch Power On, Story of Xbox.
Absolutely.
These people had to do the opposite of what Microsoft wanted. No windows, no ergonomical. We have to make this cool. It has to look cool. We have to bring The Rock on stage. Peyton Manning for the NFL game, he was in the commercial talking to people online. Like, Xbox had to be cool, and that's part of the nostalgia with it, because it was not just that it was a groundbreaking console, but Microsoft made this? I mean, there's no way. There's no way Microsoft made a console, especially, you know, the Dreamcast was still out. The PlayStation 2 was dominating. And then in comes this big, giant the controller's massive, and it just took everything over. It was, you know, it was truly, I think, one of the biggest landmark entrances in gaming. You know, we've seen a lot of
Oh,
failed
absolutely.
entrances.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just so nostalgic. 22 years. Like we've seen, you know, the Google Stadia, we've seen a lot, the Saturn. It never panned out for some of these consoles, and Microsoft not only stuck the landing after going through, they had some issues with the original Xbox, but they just, you know, they really found their way in the gaming industry, and that's not easy to do at that time.
No, it really isn't. And to your point, like if you look at, you know, the other entrants, previous entrants, new entrants, I think the last successful one was really Sony
Yeah.
with the original PlayStation, but there were others. I mean, there are others that have tried to, you know, enter the space. Panasonic, you know, even Sega with its success found itself on the outside looking in the console space, and like and a lot of the things that the original Xbox introduced at that time 22 years ago are things that changed the design philosophy of consoles today, where we have these internal hard drives now, where we have Ethernet ports. They set up the digital storefront. We have those now. You know, online multiplayer,
Party chat.
Yeah, party chat. Those are all things. Granted, Sega started some of those things, but
yeah.
But not to take anything away from Sega, but Microsoft, in my mind, perfected those things, and really with that kind of, with the Xbox was designed off, you know, I think it was off of PC parts.
Yep.
And so doing that was kind of the first time that had been done, and then leveraging you know, their internal tools that, you know, as we all know, the Xbox is named after DirectX. You know, I think they were originally going to call it the Direct Xbox, and then got rid of Directs and just called it Xbox. But Spectretti, you're right. To your point, man, like it was really funny because it was like Microsoft. They were like Microsoft, like, and it had a cool factor to it. It really did. Like, you know, like the black box, the green color scheme, you know, just Xbox. It was like a cool name, right?
And you would never guess it was from Microsoft. That is like one of the most mind-blowing things that they were able to come up with this. And yeah, like, you know, Sega had that Ethernet cable in the Dreamcast, but Microsoft, when they did that, it was a gamble because there was no such thing as online gaming. It's hard to imagine for some of the younger people in the audience, but there was no real internet. You know, internet was there, but it was just not that big. People would go to conventions to get gaming news. People would buy like Game Informer, and when they bet on the future for online gaming, that was correct. But at that time, it was a real risk, and it was a pioneered thing. It was something that, you know, forever will be their accomplishment. Nobody can take it away from them. And it was tough competition. You know, you mentioned the Dreamcast and Sega not being able to get it together. The Dreamcast was a great console, but it was just too late. You know, it was a little too late. The PlayStation they had introduced DVDs into their PlayStation 2, and the PlayStation 2 is just such a, like, if there's ever a perfect console, that might be it. I mean, from everything from games to the controller, you know, the little memory cards, so much nostalgia. The Xbox had to come swinging and bring something to the table that didn't have. Online gaming was one of those things, and it truly was a revolutionary thing. I will say, too, for the Xbox, I think that every time they did take a chance and they gambled, it's, you know, usually it's 50-50, but they for the first like 10 years of Xbox, they didn't miss. I mean, they took a chance with party chat, took a chance with digital stores. They introduced so many different things, and it all worked until, you know, later on where it kind of backfired. But 22 years for the original Xbox is incredible.
Yeah, and you know, like I think about like you know, some of the games on the original Xbox. Well, I mean, actually, I want to go back to the hardware piece, because one of my criticisms about, again, I'm talking about my criticisms today. And again, like I said earlier, like a lot of people think that it's, oh, you just hate Xbox. No, it's my criticism on Xbox today is based on my experience and what they did in previous generations. And if you look at the hardware at the time, I'm sorry, hold on a sec here. Game Logic just messaged me. Hold on a sec here. He's in Discord. I'm like, oh, he probably didn't check the BRAP DM.
Yeah.
Hold on a sec here. He's like, where is everyone? So, so if you look at like the marketing behind the original Xbox, I mean, they were like, this is the most powerful console in the market, and they made no. I mean, they didn't hide that fact, but what they did though, they talked about how revolutionary and innovative it was to have the internal hard drive. You mentioned, oh my God, Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And I remember, I forget what Linkin Park album came out around that time, but I remember I ripped, because remember you could rip music onto the internal hard drive and make custom soundtracks, which was phenomenal. I loved that. I love that feature on the original Xbox. So, but they would talk about the internal hard drive. They would talk about the power of the system, and then you have somebody who was kind of an advocate, an evangelist for the original Xbox, Itagaki-san of Team Ninja at the time, who was, behind Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
And he would talk. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the best games that you could have played back then. It was one of the best Xbox games.
It really was. And it was visually like one of the best games at the time that had come out.
I think every Xbox 2 needs a game like that features what the console can do. It's not just about fun. Obviously, you want to have fun, but you need that game that says this is what this console is capable of. Like, this is the console flexing its muscles.
Exactly, and so you set that up perfectly, Spigdretti. Like, this is where my criticism of Xbox today comes into play, because the original Xbox, they talked about the power, they talked about the internal hard drive, being able to rip custom soundtracks, but they created software, they created video games that highlighted the specification, the feature sets that were marketed of this console at the time. The most powerful console. You got games like Ninja Gaiden that was visually stunning. Splinter Cell was born on the original Xbox. I remember one of the things about Splinter Cell that people were so impressed was the lighting and shadow in the game, the shadow techniques in the game, and it was in part because of the power of the original Xbox. And then because of the internal hard drive and power of the original Xbox, you got games like Elder Scrolls, Morrowind. You remember Morrowind?
Those Bethesda games made their bread and butter on that Xbox. That's where it starts.
I mean, like Morrowind. Like I never experienced a game that size, scale, scope on a console before. It was amazing.
It was another revolutionary thing that the Xbox had. And like I said, in that 10 years of run from the Xbox One to the 360, it was like, man, they're just not missing. They take a risk on all these things, and it's all coming up aces.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, it was like they advertised the internal hard drive, the power, and they created games that took advantage of the hardware, that showed off the power, that showed what you could do with the internal hard drive. Again, like the Bethesda developer said, like we couldn't do Morrowind on any other console. It can only be done on Xbox. And then my other criticism, again, and I'm bringing this up because like I always see people say that, I just hate on Xbox for the sake of hating on it. And again, I say, for those who just joined the show, that no, it's my criticism of Xbox today is based on their philosophy 20 years ago, how their design philosophy and execution around hardware and software 20 years ago, and even during the Xbox 360 generation. And even with the first, like we said, the first year or two of the Xbox One generation, which I thought was good. But back to the original Xbox, like they created these games that were visually stunning. We got Halo. Then Halo 2 came about, and Halo 2 really took advantage of Xbox Live. That was it. And then, you saw games like, and then you had games that really moved the needle for the platform. Like Morrowind, Halo, Knights of the Old Republic. Real quick, let me, before we move on here, I want to introduce the other panel members who just joined the show. B Money, what's going on? Are you there? I see your mic's muted. Okay, maybe he stepped away. He'll be back. We do have Game Logic here with us. Logic, how are you this evening?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
Yeah, we're just celebrating. This is the 22nd anniversary of the launch of the original Xbox. So we were just discussing some of the experiences we had. Did you? I forget, Logic. Did you own an original Xbox? I always forget.
Yep, I did. I picked one up on launch day.
Yeah. But we're talking about a lot of the successes, a lot of the things that console did well, some of the great gaming experiences, Xbox Live. I was an Xbox Live beta tester. I know I talked a lot about that on the show. Talked about that experience. But I was saying, as Spectretti and I were discussing the original Xbox, and we were just talking about the different the games that they released that really moved the needle for the platform. So it's a really moved the needle for the industry too. What are some of your favorite experiences on the original Xbox, Logic, or memorable experiences, I should say?
I think, one of my big ones, I heard you talk about Halo when I first came in, and it was just an unusual happenstance. A buddy of mine just happened to be visiting the same town that I lived in, kind of out of the blue. He was there for training. I didn't know he was coming out or anything, and he had training like the week before Thanksgiving, and then follow-on training like the week after. So he wasn't. So his family lived out on the East Coast, so he wasn't going home. So he had lodging and all that stuff, but over the Thanksgiving holiday, he came over and we played through the original Halo campaign co-op on my Xbox. So that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, those were the days, man. Spectretti, I know I've been talking a lot. I've been ranting and raving about the original Xbox. It is literally one of my favorite consoles. But for you, what are some of your most memorable experiences on that console?
I would have to say Halo. I mean, that is, at that time you had a lot of third-person platformers and just action adventure games, but FPS games just, on console, that's where it starts. It all starts with Halo. And if you just, I keep talking about the Power On Xbox story, but it's so interesting because that game leading up to launch, it didn't look good. If you were behind the
it was
scenes,
rough.
you thought, this might not land well. This might be kind of a disaster. And it launches so beautifully. And even some of the flaws about the game, people embraced, the funny mechanics with the cars and the glitches. It's, at that time, people somehow became less critical and became more, oh, well, it's a fun flaw. Bethesda has that with their games where people love some of the bugs. That's what Halo had. And it was, you just can't tell the history of gaming and really console shooters without Halo. That has to be one of the defining titles for any, most consoles wish to have a Halo. And so I would have to pick that one. I mean, that truly was the first of good things to come, at least at that time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, a lot of people may or may not know that Forza was born on the original Xbox. Fable, which the remake's actually in development now with Playground Studios. That launch, I remember Peter Molyneux selling the idea of Project Ego? Was that the name of it before it became Fable? I think it was Project Ego, and him kind of hyping up what that was. This world where your choices mattered and you would age or your image would change based on your choices. And and we talked about Sega. I mean, some of the Sega classics that arrived on the original Xbox, Jet Set Radio Future.
Yep. Yeah. Sega ends up porting a lot. What's the dream? And it's a shame what happened to the Dreamcast because truly rock in a hard place. I mean, the PS2 is amazing. The Xbox is amazing. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. That was kind of the situation. And once they started porting a lot of those games over, it really took in a lot of ways, I think Sega made the right decision because Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo found good use for those games. I always look back at Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube and Jet Set Radio on the original Xbox. I mean, that was an experience that was like no other because Sega's games at that, man, they were really good at making games at that time. They were making creative stuff that you'd really never heard of. And that was one of those games on the Xbox that you can't really miss.
Yeah, Jet Set Radio. It's funny when I played. I didn't really play Hi-Fi Rush too long. It just didn't vibe with me. But the aesthetic, the cell shading aesthetic of Hi-Fi reminded me of Jet Set Radio Future.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. I think it takes. A lot of people are saying it reminds of Sunset Overdrive 2. But I think it's more akin to Jet Set Radio. It's this. The world is moving, the music is flowing through you, and I really think Hi-Fi Rush. I beat it. That's I think probably the best Xbox game they've had in at least the last 6 years that I can remember. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe Gears 5, maybe Forza 5, but we already know Halo, Gears, Forza. Hi-Fi Rush just comes out of nowhere, no lead up, just pick up and play, and I loved it. That probably has the most akin to Jet Set Radio that I've seen.
Yeah, that was a great stealth launch. I mean, that literally, I think, saved Xbox for 2023. Like, because they and I think Logic, you and I talked about this, they wouldn't have had anything else until Starfield this year. I mean, because Redfall just didn't really land for a lot of people. I know there's some people enjoyed it, and that's fine, but for the purposes of really, shedding, bringing some, or moving the needle maybe for the platform in a positive way, just didn't seem to do that. So that's kind of where my again, we talk about the 22nd anniversary of the original Xbox. My criticism of them today is based on my experiences on previous console generations of owning an Xbox console, where I just felt like in my opinion, I just felt like they did a better job of really making games that spoke to or took advantage of the hardware, and put games out that really moved the needle for the platform, and in instances moved the needle for the industry. I think that Xbox, I think you mentioned like Spaghetti, like the Xbox One. I think you said like 2014, 2015, like something happened.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I mean, they
Yeah.
just weren't prepared to keep that momentum going. And I also think Don Matrick has to bear a lot of the blame, because just listening to his interviews, the online only, hey, if you don't like it, get a 360. It was like, what happened? You guys were so friendly with us, and now you're just like, you don't like it's almost like you're punishing us. Like, what did we do?
What do we do? Yeah. B, are you back? I want to see.
Yeah,
there
I'm
he is.
back, man. What's going on?
B, so first of all, great to see you, sir. So today is the 22nd anniversary of the launch of the original Xbox. I'm sure you had an original Xbox.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What are your most memorable experiences on that platform?
Oh man, that's where I started playing Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, pretty heavy.
Yes, Ghost Recon.
Online. Yeah. So everybody was playing Halo, and Halo was cool, but for me, I've always loved tactical shooters. So coming from PS2, playing SOCOM, jumping in to Xbox, playing Ghost Recon, playing Rainbow Six, those were really got me excited about Xbox, just because they had the better online functionality. And then you had games like Jade Empire. That's one of my favorite games.
Man, I forgot about Jade Empire. Oh my God. Knights of the BioWare. Yeah.
And NFL 2K5, of course. TO on the cover. Love that game.
The game that was actually better than Madden that year.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why EA went ahead and got the deal. Because 2K came out swinging. They sold the game at $20 and everybody bought it, and Madden took the back seat that year. So yeah, man, a lot of great memories on the OG Xbox, man. But probably not the games that most people would expect, as far as like the first party stuff. But for me, it was having that online functionality, with the games that I enjoyed at that time. Really had a good time with it.
Yeah. I think about Fable, Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, KOTOR was wow. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden was, visually at that time was one of the best looking games, and it was hard too. And you got to remember, we talked about Sega. Itoji, which was a From Software game, was a time exclusive on the original Xbox.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful looking game for that time.
Yeah. See,
remember Microsoft?
What Microsoft and Xbox did their first two generations was they followed the PS2 blueprint. Where they had, select first party experiences, but what they really did was cultivate a bunch of third party experiences as exclusives. And that's what made their console attractive. They had all these exclusive games, from these studios, that weren't studios that they owned, and it made their library a lot bigger than what it actually was. As far as coming from a first party standpoint. Today, we make a big deal about having first party content, for platform holders, but back then, that wasn't that big of a deal. You just want to have exclusive content on your console. It didn't matter, what studio made it.
That's a great point. The PlayStation 2 era, a lot of people forget the PlayStation 2 era was not a lot of Sony first party as much as it was third party exclusivity,
right?
Or exclusives. Yeah.
Can I just say too, the whole the third party thing, that's such a great point, because if you think about it, PlayStation ended up acquiring a lot of studios, really smart, talented studios that made sense. Microsoft didn't have any studios going into the Xbox One. They were so reliant on those third party stuff. And then that might actually be one of the biggest reasons why the Xbox One stumbles, because PlayStation is the cow. They have the farm. They're making the games. Microsoft was so reliant on third-party games, and then they had to end up buying so many. We end up know what happens. They buy studios, publishers, but that might be one of the biggest reasons why the Xbox One stumbles. Now that I think about it, it's a great point. PlayStation really did, Insomniac and all these other studios. They made sure to I don't know if that was foresight or if it made sense at the time. They were just right place, right time. But that was a really good move from PlayStation. That might have hurt the Xbox the most.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about the launch line of the Xbox One. I believe at the launch lineup there was what I think Forza was a launch title, but I think the rest were third-party exclusives, right? Like Rise, Son of Rome, which I really like, by the way. I really did like Rise, Son of Rome. But what was the other one by Capcom?
Dead Rising 3.
Dead Rising 3, yeah. What was the other one? There's Dead Rising 3, Rise. I forget now.
Call of Duty obviously was launching, and they had the 30. That was still when they were doing the 1 month thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then there's about Battlefield. They had all the Just Dance, I think, was another one with Ubisoft. But that's all third party, and that's just not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I look at those days as the good old days for the Xbox.
Yeah.
that's yeah. And again, that's where my criticism of them today stems from, just my previous experience. So, speaking of Xbox, I do want to get to this topic before we get to the Game Awards and the NPD Circana numbers that just came out. Before we get to this next topic, anyone have any other thoughts? God, who could forget the Duke controller, right?
Literally maybe the most iconic controller, just because of how big it was. It didn't
iconic for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, who is this for? I have big hands, but this is for nobody. This is just, you guys didn't think this through. I don't think. I will say though, it wasn't ergonomical, and that's a plus.
Actually, I look back at that as a significant standout in design approach by American companies. One of the things that's always bothered me, and I have larger hands, I have never liked the PlayStation controllers, and one of the reasons was I always felt that they were small, and I always felt that they were ergonomically designed for Asians. And so when the Duke controller came along, I got it, and I was like this is finally somebody made a controller for me. Yeah. So I actually applaud them for the approach that they took on the Duke, just for doing something different that stood out on the market. And I don't think it was unintentional or just by happenstance. I think it was deliberate.
Well, I have never been a big fan of the DualShock. I was never a big fan of the DualShock controllers, to be frank. I think I started liking the DualShock at the PlayStation 4, but even then, at that time, the Xbox controller was still my favorite. Now the DualSense, much improved,
much better,
and it's actually my favorite controller now, as opposed to the Xbox controller, which I never thought would happen. That would never happen. No,
I agree. I'm the same way. This is the first time since there's been an Xbox that the PlayStation controller is my preferred controller.
Yeah. But I do use the Elite controller for my PC though, for the Xbox One. But yeah, I mean, Logic. I mean, you're right. I mean, it was designed to fit like, and I mean, my hands. It wasn't. It was kind of big for me still, but pause. But I did appreciate the design. But it was kind of like what was the PC controller Microsoft had at the time? The Sidewinder or something?
Yeah, the Sidewinder series of
it was
controllers.
like, yeah, it was like that on steroids, and then they came out with the Control S, which I liked. I thought it was a nice, for me at least, it was a nice compromise, middle ground for someone like me. If I look at that, the Dual Shock controller and then the Duke, it was a nice in between those two controllers for me. So
I will say the DualShock for the PS3, I think that was the DualShock 3. If nothing else, it was really durable. I mean, I dropped it a lot of times. That thing wouldn't break if I pitched it, at a baseball bat. It was really durable.
Yeah, but again, I wasn't a big fan of those controllers. I don't know. I just they weren't comfortable to me. Yeah, but I will say this: the one thing that was really surprising about the original Xbox was that it ended up outselling Nintendo's GameCube. And I don't think anyone would have predicted that. They did launch the same year, but I don't think anyone would have predicted that they would have beat the GameCube in sales.
Yeah, the GameCube, I mean, that small DVD thing was kind of the death of it. I don't understand why they didn't go with normal DVD size. The PS2 did. It also had DVD capabilities, but that small disc size was just, it was, third-party developers did not want to downsize a game at that time. It was probably much harder to do than it is today to make a game for the GameCube, and it's not even the top-selling thing on the market. You have the Xbox, and you also have the PlayStation 2. So from a third-party sense, it really did make a lot of sense to just go through all that extra work and put it on a third place platform. It was just not great. Also Nintendo had a lot of first-party content that year, maybe more than ever because of that.
Yeah, and I think they lost some third-party support too because of that disc choice as well. If I remember correctly, I think that was part of the challenges that they started having. All right. I do want to move on to something here. As look on occasion, I will talk about things that I see, dialogue that I see in the gaming community, more particular Twitter. And this is kind of, I've seen this comment before, but it's kind of reared it's come back. It's come back because of the Game Awards. This Xbox tax. B, have you heard of this phrase?
I saw it trending, I think this morning or something like that. Yeah. But so I haven't been tapped into social media, so I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, but it was trending, and that's why that's why I'm talking about it, because I was surprised that it was trending. But now, player, we'll go to NPD here in a little bit. But Spaghetti, you've seen the Xbox tax.
Yeah.
Someone said in the chat, who's paying this tax? So if you could explain, do you know what the Xbox tax is?
Yeah, I do. I can.
Okay, yeah. If you could explain it for our listeners and for those who don't know.
So basically, there is the idea that Xbox games and the brand itself is disliked by everybody on Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and the Sun. And so anything that comes out positive for the Xbox has to be taken points off, right? Like any game they have that's a good game.
That's the tax.
That's the tax. It's like, oh, whoa, we can't give it a 90. Let's give it an 85. That's more, the Xbox tax. It is really silly because Xbox has been praised even this generation for so many.
Yes.
Forza Horizon 5. That was IGN's game of the year. So it's not a real thing. It is a figment of people's imagination.
Thank you.
It is funny though. It is very funny, the Xbox, and it's catchy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because I'm looking at the review, like, and not everyone, but I see a lot of people singling out IGN. And I think you just mentioned IGN. They had Forza Horizon 5 as their game of the year.
Yeah, that was their game of the year.
Yeah, like in light of like tangible evidence that says otherwise, like people are really running, they believe it, and I'm just like, it's strange that that there's and this is not everyone in the Xbox community, by the way, to make that clear, but it's weird that there's a portion of that community, and I think tends to be the loudest portion of that community, that has this victim complex about Xbox. It's like,
yeah,
like how can there be a victim complex over a consumer product? It's really
it's parasocial. They make it like Xbox. It's almost like if you attack Xbox or criticize Xbox, you're attacking them, and you're just attacking a product. That's it. You're criticizing a product. You're discussing a product. It's not like I am attacking you personally for liking the product. I like a lot of things that are, Sonic 06 is one of my favorite games. That game gets destroyed all the time. I don't take it personally because I get it. My experience with the game is positive, but I don't, I'm not synonymous with the game. It's a video game, just like Xbox is a console.
Yeah. It's really odd to me. And, Logic, you mentioned that there's a deep state hypothesis in the gaming community. And that's shocking to me. It's shocking that, and I said this, on the last BRAP. I did a live BRAP after the, nominees were announced, for this year's Game Awards. And, somebody brought up a particular YouTube channel, an Xbox centric YouTube channel. And what was shocking to me was that, and I went back and listened to this channel because I was curious to see what the live chat was referring to, but they were saying, oh, so-and-so is doing conspiracy theories. And I went back and I listened to it, and it's just like, it's almost like listening to Alex Jones. It's really, yes, player is the name of the chat, but it is like the thing that's really weird to me is that it's not just people on Twitter typing this stuff. It's that there's Xbox centric podcasters that are regurgitating this narrative and kind of reinforcing this idea of this Xbox tax, or that Xbox doesn't get a fair shake. Whereas this one individual said like they don't get their flowers. And I'm like what planet are you living on? Like, to your point, Spigretti, like IGN just, Forza Horizon 5 was their game of the year. We've seen plenty of look at the reviews for Hi-Fi Rush. Critically acclaimed.
They won Publisher of the Year too, I think.
Yes, that's my point. Like, I was just about to say that. Like, how can you say they don't get their flowers when they were the Metacritic Publisher of the Year? Like, I think in 2021, if I was.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like, how can you say that? Like, they would need to get flowers in order to get that to be, to be awarded that. I mean, and I don't put a lot of stock in Publisher of the Year, but my point is that if they're not getting their flowers, you probably wouldn't see that. Like, it's gone real. It's, and I hate to make this comparison, but it seems like very extreme elements of the political sphere that we see today. And it's really, like, I said this on my show, like, we have enough conspiracy theories in life in general, like in politics, in science. I mean, you have people that believe the earth is flat. And why are we allowing that to creep in gaming? Like, gaming is supposed to be entertainment. Video games is an art form. Why are we allowing that in gaming? Like, to me, it's counterproductive. It dumbs down the conversation. Like, some of the things that I was like this particular person was saying that they adore Phil Spencer. Phil's a nice guy. That Microsoft is the game media's punching bag, that the media uses hate mongering for clicks. Look, I don't disagree that the media coverage of gaming is, I think you would agree with me, Logic, poo at times, right? But
I mean, pretty much all the time now, with a few exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say go to GameIndustryBiz.com if you really want good coverage of the video game industry.
Yeah, I mean, when we can count on one hand, right, the number of outlets that we would recommend. Now, that's recommend. There are a larger number of outlets that I would still call in the sphere of, like, we go through this every week when people try and come in chat and we make a data-oriented, objective argument, and people say things, and then I ask them what their source is, and they point me to a source that is outside that threshold. So I think there's a bubble of sites that do what I think is the normal minimum threshold, where they actually take into consideration, right, whether or not something's corroborated before they run with it. But at the end, but there's a smaller circle of sites that we would say, no, you really need to go like read this site like regularly to actually get the inside skinny and understand what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. But this idea, but and again, there's a lot of the Xbox centric podcasts that are pushing this narrative, and it's really, it's not to the benefit of the listeners or the community. It's actually the opposite. I think it actually makes gamers look dumb. When I think about people's perspectives on the outside, I mean, Big Dreddy, I don't know how long you've been gaming. It sounds like you've probably been gaming maybe as long as I have.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not as long, but since basically the start of the 2000s.
Yeah, but you remember there was a stigma on gaming for such a long time,
Oh, I talk about it all the time. Gaming
Yeah.
wasn't cool. Like everybody
No,
thinks,
it wasn't.
Gaming's cool now. I used to have to. I wouldn't go bragging. I play Call of Duty. That was a secret. I would talk to my friends about it. But I'm not going to go around saying I play. Hey, want to hop on COD tonight? That was not how it was.
No, exactly. Like there was a stigma. It was, like only nerds play video games. That was kind of what I would hear, and but these guys now, they are, with these conversations they're having, they're creating this new stigma, this labeling, this stereotype of gamers as being conspiracy theorists and just batshit crazy.
Yeah, it's
Like,
you bring up like the old days, like in school. It's like high school. You start a rumor, and then if enough people say it, it's true. So now the Xbox tax is true in a lot of people's eyes, all because of rumor, because of something somebody started.
Yeah. It's just very disingenuous. It is very it makes us look bad. It makes gamers look bad. If someone's on the outside looking in, they're like, "What? This is video games. What are you guys doing?" And like gaming has become so mainstream, so accepted, that I think that this kind of dumbing down the conversation, and really it's almost like and I've listened to a couple Xbox centric podcasts. It's they regurgitate the same talking points. It's almost cult like in a way. But this idea, and I want to go back to this idea of this individual saying media uses hate mongering for clicks. And this person then went on to say, but we don't do that here on this channel. We don't spread hate. I'm like, well, no, you actually are spreading hate. You're actually getting people riled up, angry at gaming media, and that's going to create hate. That's going to create resentment, anger,
based on false pretenses, by the way.
Yeah, based on
the main point.
Yeah, based on false pretenses. Exactly. These things aren't based on any sense of reality. Yeah, it's just odd. And some of that the show that I was listening to bled into the Game Awards, where they were upset about Starfield not being nominated for Game of the Year. Look, if Starfield's your Game of the Year, that's all that should matter. I don't think a video game award show should you should seek validation from an award show if that game's your Game of the Year.
So I will say, because I do think that there is a little nuance here, because I do think so Jeff Keighley posted a tweet today, and he said nomination week is always a tough one. I hear from teams that are over the moon and teams that are disappointed. There is a lot of stock in the Game of the Year. It's become this marquee event for gaming, and honestly, it's good because this is the first. We've never had anything like it. So I do understand why some Xbox fans are upset. I ultimately don't think they should be upset that the game didn't get nominated. I think they should be upset about the process more than anything, because the Game Awards, I think, needs quality control. We've seen like Dave the Driver. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't in the indie game category. Last year Sifu in the fighting game category. There was the whole Kenshin thing, which that was a whole can of worms. I mean, I think the process is to be critiqued fairly. But like it's like you said, if Starfield's your Game of the Year, then that's totally fine. Final Fantasy 16, that could have been another candidate. That game launched really well. Everybody, the reviews are there. Hogwarts Legacy is, I think, the best-selling new game of the year. So yeah, it's not just Starfield. Like, there's a lot of games that could have been nominated.
Yeah, no, yeah. Again, I mean, I just I just don't understand the conspiracy theories. That's really my point, and the misinformation, disinformation that's going around, and really wish that the gaming community would do better and just call this stuff out and say, look, enough. Like, this isn't good. It's not making the community look good. It doesn't do anything positive for the community. It creates anger. It creates this, like, you see it, like, people are like upset. I'm like, why? Like,
and attacking Jeff Keighley is so wrong, by the way. What he means to this game industry is a lot. And I just don't understand the idea of like, oh yeah, like Jeff Keighley has a deal with PlayStation. That's like, that stuff is just, it creates an environment to where people who, like, we've seen Hollywood recently get into video games. We just saw, Sony with The Last of Us success. They brought that to HBO, new Zelda live action. People do look at that stuff and they say, how toxic is it going to be? Good example is DC Warner Brothers. I mean, how much turmoil did that go through? And people who left the franchise talked about the toxicity amongst the fan base. So, a lot of these people who are, Xbox, I don't want to call them cultists, but let's just say super fanatics, attacking guys like Jeff Keighley, it really is counterproductive. Like, there's you gain nothing.
But the problem is Spaghetti, they are getting it. They're getting their cues from these podcasts. They're getting their marching orders. I mean, that's the scary part. And, and to your point about attacking Jeff Keighley, like, there was one guy I was listening to on the show was like, oh, figures that Spider-Man 2 got in there, Jeff Keighley's on, getting paid off by Sony. And I'm like, okay, more conspiracy theories. Like, let's look at the advisory board here for the Game Awards. Okay. Give me just a second here. I'm gonna pull this up, because when I hear this, I'm like, this is what's frustrating to me when people say things and they don't necessarily do the research. Look at the advisory board here. Okay. I'm going to scroll down here. This person is making an accusation that somehow Sony's made some kind of payment to Jeff Keighley to get a Sony game nominated for Game of the Year. I mean, and I've seen this happen almost every year. There's a PlayStation game in there for Game of the Year. Look who's on the board. Dr. Lisa Su, AMD. Okay. Phil Spencer. I mean, like, let's just think about this for a second. Are you telling me then? And what really bothers me is that you have the host of the show who lets his panel member spew this nonsense in spite of the fact that Phil Spencer sits on the board of directors of the Game Awards. So think about the accusation you're making and who sits on the board. You're saying Phil Spencer is in cahoots with some kind of bribery scheme that's going on at the Game Awards? Is that what's happening? Let's see who else we have here. Laura Mealy, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. President EA, Dr. Lisa Su, I mentioned, CEO of AMD, Rob Kostic, who's president of Activision, Bobby Kotick used to sit on the board, Epic Games, Hideo Kojima, Phil Spencer, we just mentioned, Doug Bowser, president of Nintendo, Mark Merrill, co-founder of Riot Games, Rockstar Games, Sony Active Entertainment, Steve Ma, Tencent, and I can't pronounce his name. I can never pronounce his name. The gentleman is the CEO of Ubisoft and Valve.
Extensive. It's a lot of big people in the industry, and it's no one company. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's some of the big players in the industry are on this advisory board. I should note the board is not involved in selection of award nominees or winners and learns of the results of voting at the same time as the general public. The advisory board, and then he goes on to include who the advisory board consists of.
I think it's just to your point about, you take a little bit from the political spectrum in America, and it's become so extreme to the point where you see crazy things being, thrown out there, and now it's getting into gaming. It literally is, to attack Jeff Keighley, to think that there's some conspiracy here. I don't like. It's just silly. It's just stupid and silly, and it didn't really exist like 10 years ago. This kind of talk was just never around, at least to my knowledge, and now
No, it's gotten worse.
It's so much worse. I just don't know what to say. Like Jeff Keighley has done, this show. It just doesn't exist without him, and it's a cool show because you've seen. Even I saw Deadline do a story on it. Deadline is one of the biggest outlets for Hollywood, and now they're covering video games. And you said the stigma about video games, a while ago. Well, this is the product of progression in video games, and so to say stuff like that, like there's conspiracies, it just sets us back.
No, it does. It makes us look like we're like nut jobs, political right wing, left wing nut jobs. That's what it makes us look like. I tend to equate these people of more like QAnon type, but that's another conversation. Let me grab the super chat here real quick. Jenna Hayes with the $5 super chat says he's talking about Boomstick XL. I am just mentioning he's only one. I lost respect for the guy. He's a retired police NYPD officer that has shares of Microsoft and spoofs fake gaming news. Yeah, he's one of the biggest offenders here, spreading misinformation, disinformation, which is unfortunate because he's someone that says he loves video games, but is doing more harm to the community, to the conversation around gaming, and to the perspective that people have of the gaming community. It's very unfortunate. All right. And he's not the only one, by the way. I'm not solely picking on him. There's others. But yeah, go ahead, Spigot. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I see the Twitter. I think the Twitter accounts. I'm not sure how much it happens on YouTube, but the Xbox Twitter accounts. I don't want to name names because I almost don't want to give them the attention. But the usual suspects, they do a lot of this, where they retweet all these conspiracy theories, and then they have this pseudo evidence where they like take an out of context statement and then see, look, this person said this, and let me clip it out of context, and then now, this could be a conspiracy. It's all just so silly.
It really is, yeah. All right, I do want to, Ryan, you're funny. I do want to move on to another topic here, unless anyone has anything else they want to add to this before we move on. All right. Let's see here. NPD numbers for the month of October came out. Our good friend Matt Piscatella, we've actually had twice on the show. I need to get Matt back on the show. I know he took a break from podcasting a little bit, but we did have him on a couple of years ago. Great guest, but he did release the October numbers for or I say NPD Circana, the top 20 best-selling premium games in the U.S. dollar sales. This excludes add-on content. Spider-Man came in at number 1, which is pretty impressive considering it was. It had 8 days in the month of October. So it came in at number 1, and behind that, number 2 was Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Well, and then it's only for sale on one platform.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's on sale only on the PlayStation 5. That's a great point, with a much smaller install base than the Nintendo Switch. That's pretty impressive that they did that in 8 days. I think it speaks to the popularity of the Spider-Man IP. But Super Mario Brothers Wonder debuted at number 2. Assassin's Creed Mirage debuted at number 3. Madden held at number 4.
Well, just back to Assassin's Creed Mirage. One of the things you and I talked about during the week, right? So this list is by revenue. It's not by unit sales. Assassin's Creed Mirage is an underpriced title. I can't remember exactly how much it is. I bought it. It's either $50 or
50,
60, maybe 50. So the point is that in order to get to number 3 and jump over all these other titles below it that are going for $70, it had to sell a significantly larger number of units. So that's very impressive for what is essentially a title that by design is almost a nostalgia play, but is an effort to hook, a fandom that had kind of, abandoned the Assassin's Creed franchise, to pull them back in. So, I often feel like we sleep on Ubisoft and don't give them enough credit. They've definitely done things to, soil their own laundry, but then they also make plays like this. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's actually retails for $50. You can actually get it on sale for Actually, you can get it on Amazon for you can get the Assassin's Creed Mirage Deluxe Edition for Xbox Series X and S for $44.99, and Amazon has the launch edition for Xbox Series X and S at $40 right now. So you can pick it up anywhere from $40 to $50. All right, and then Madden came in. Well, Madden was number 4. It was number 4 the month before. Madden NFL 24, which my kids love playing for some reason. B, are you playing Madden 24 or no?
No, I haven't played Madden in years, man. I couldn't tell you the last time I played.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was. Are your kids playing?
No.
Okay. EA Sports FC 2024 was number 5. It was 3rd last month. Mortal Kombat 1 was number 6. It was 2nd the month previous. UFC 5 debuted at number 7. NHL 24 debuted at number 8. EA, by the way, EA has 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 4 games in the top 10 right now.
What are those games again?
The EA games?
Yeah,
Madden NFL, EA Sports FC, UFC 5, NHL 24.
Oh, look
all
at
sports
that.
Games.
All
sports games.
Titles. The games that everybody tries to shit on, but the ones that are leading the industry. Oh, look at that.
Yep. Sonic Superstars with Sega debuted at number 9.
Not bad. I was happy about that.
Yeah, that's great to see Sonic Superstars debut. At 9. Hogwarts Legacy is number 10. It was number 9 last year, so that's still the top selling game of 2023. It's gonna be interesting to see if it gets knocked off the pedestal by Call of Duty, which just released. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was number 11. Metal Gear Solid, the Master Collection Volume 1. I was kind of surprised to see this at number 12, but it was debuted at number 12. Behind that was NBA 2K24, which is 13. It was 6 the month before. Starfield, which was the top-selling game of September 2023, was number 14 for the month of October. Elden Ring, I can't believe Elden Ring's still there. 15, and it was 18th last month. And the Crew Motorfest is 16. It was 7th the month before. Forza Motorsport, which we had been discussing off-air Logic, that we were surprised that we haven't heard much news in the way of Forza in terms of engagement or anything from Microsoft. But Forza actually debuted at number 17 for October 2023. Star Wars.
I'll admit two points of incorrectness that I've made in the last 30 days or so. I did not believe Starfield was going to chart 2 months in a row on NPD. So hats off to them for doing so and proving me wrong. I did not, and I thought Forza Motorsport wasn't going to be charting just based on where they are with Steam community reviews and the fact that Microsoft hadn't revealed engagement numbers before, which is typically a flag that they always wave, right? Which is the, title X already has X number of players, right, within 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever. So I'm not going to say hats off to that one. I'm going to say that's a thing to keep an eye on to see if it's another Battlefield 2042 situation, as far as I'm concerned, for right now. The one comment I will make about Sonic Superstars is we went back and forth about this a little bit on Twitter. So Sega has been on record as saying that they are happy with the way that some of their games perform in Game Pass. But this is an instance where this is a game, in fact, of all their games that they've published in 2023, the only games that they've put on Game Pass are the 2 Yakuza games that they've pushed out. The rest of them they have not put on Game Pass day and date, and Sonic Superstars is one of those. So I think while they're happy about how some of their games perform in Game Pass, I think that there are other ones that they look at as more marquee properties that they keep out of Game Pass to maybe to make sure that they make sales numbers like this.
Yeah, I just want to say, to add on to that, I think it's, Sega has unique IP, like, the Yakuza series is not quite as, I'm actually playing The Man Who Erased His Name. I love it so far. It's really good. Sonic is, I think, for Sega, just too big to put on Game Pass. That's a franchise that maybe not quite as big as Mario, but it's going to sell. And it's tricky with Xbox because they have conditioned the consumer base to not buy games and wait for them to be on Game Pass. So I think, you kind of have to be strategic if you're Sega. Yakuza makes a lot of sense for Game Pass. It might not sell that well because, at least on that console, because gamers might not buy it on that console. So maybe you put it on Game Pass. Sonic Superstars, I think, it's at number 9, I believe you said. So that's pretty good. That seems like a sound decision they made to not put it on there.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see if they pivot with the Yakuza series, right? Like for the time being, so you go back a few years ago after Game Pass started, and when the Yakuza games just showed up on Game Pass, like en masse, right? When they dropped all of them on Game Pass that were out at the time, I thought that was a great move because Yakuza at that time was it was kind of a cult favorite. It had a following, but it didn't make the big sales numbers. But clearly, its presence on Game Pass has increased its level of awareness to gamers, to a vast majority, even gamers who aren't on Game Pass. Just the fact that it was on Game Pass and it made a big hoopla in the media, I think drew everyone else's attention to it. So it'll be interesting to see as they go down the road if they get to a point where they feel like that franchise is well known enough that they choose to not put it on Game Pass day and date. But yeah, it's good to see that it's doing well and good to see that those games are getting noticed.
And the price could go up too. You remember the Activision Blizzard deal? They actually leaked how much it would cost Xbox to put games on there, like just some ballpark numbers, because 2022 they didn't have anything. If it does stay on Game Pass, but it does continue to do really well like it has been, price could go up. Sega could say, hey, it's going to take more to keep it on Game Pass because we could just sell it, and it might do even better than what it would if we take your Game Pass money. So.
All right, I do want to go. I'm sorry, I forgot 2 games here. Star Wars Jedi Survivor at 18, Minecraft 19, Lords of the Fallen debuted at number 20. So those are the Circana October 2023 top 20 best-selling premium games in the U.S. Now, year to date, ending October 2023, top 20 best-selling premium games. These are the top-selling games for the entire year so far. Number 1, Hogwarts Legacy. Again, I said this earlier. I would be surprised. I'm curious to see if Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 will knock that game off the number 1 spot, because that typically, I feel like that's typically what happens when Call of Duty comes out. So Hogwarts Legacy is number 1. 2 is Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Madden, what is Tears of the Kingdom? Is it at like 18 million now? I forget. I thought they released the numbers.
I think it's at 21.5. I'm pretty sure it got 2 months. Wow.
Nintendo is just, I mean, that 57 million number for Mario Kart's insane. All right, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom is number 2. Madden NFL 24. Now Spider-Man, which is new, debuted at number 4. And this is 8 days of release that it's number 4. I think that's pretty impressive. That's the 4th highest selling game of 2023.
It is. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on it, right? Because I just don't know. We talked about, there's a relatively limited number of PlayStation 5 consoles that are out in the wild, right? In comparison to other platforms that have lots more consoles like the Nintendo Switch. And, the rest of the population that's still on the PlayStation 4. So there isn't that much growth potential for additional sales for Marvel Spider-Man. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets overtaken as we go through the remaining months of the year.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I feel like has it kind of
peaked?
Has it peaked? Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that because how many PlayStation 5s are in the wild?
Like 46 million.
Yeah, 40, almost 50. Yeah. It's like just under 50.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine that. I mean, like, do they count the bundle of the Spider-Man 2 in? The PlayStation, they count that.
They definitely do. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it could gain some traction there, but yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see, like, if it dips, because there's that smaller install base there.
It's going to be the number 1 Sony game that gets bought this Christmas.
100%.
I mean, it's going to continue through the holiday. through the holiday season. Every kid who has a PS5, if they didn't get the game day one, that's gonna be
They're gonna get it now.
Yeah, a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that means that there's that by the end of the year there's a maximum of like 54 million units, right, that could be sold if every single person that has a PlayStation 5 buys them. And I'm just saying the selling potential of Madden NFL, Legend of Zelda, Hogwarts Legacy, Diablo 4, when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 drops on the list, like all of those consoles have just a larger addressable market. So it's not a matter of is it a good enough game or not. It's just a matter of what's your maximum attach rate threshold. At some point, Spider-Man hits a ceiling. I mean, I've seen people make comments about like bundles. We've had this conversation before about Horizon Zero Dawn and people acting like it's irrelevant because it's got sold in a bundle. These games being sold in bundles with PlayStation 5, they're not Duck Hunt, right? Or Road Rash, right? They're not the throwaway game that you used to buy.
What's wrong with Duck Hunt, man? Come on, I actually like Duck Hunt.
That's actually a classic game.
Yeah, but there were packing games that used to come with consoles that you just bought because you either didn't have any choice or you didn't really care. It wasn't like a marquee game that you were hungry to go after, right? It was just one of the options of a pack-in title because all consoles came with pack-in titles at the time. When these are big AAA games that are marquee games that are in the zeitgeist, that are winning awards, that are getting big sales numbers, people going after them to buy them bundled with a console it's not an insignificant thing just because it's in the bundle.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I mean, there's a knock-on effect, a positive knock-on effect for Sony selling those bundles. Those are potentially new PlayStation 5 customers that may have been motivated to buy a PS5 now simply for that one game, Spider-Man.
Yep, exactly.
Let's see here. Diablo 4, which I need to get back to playing. I left that game. I was enjoying the campaign, and then I just stopped playing it because of the onslaught of game releases. I think I even bought like the $100 edition, and then I just never went back to it. So Diablo is number 5 right now. It was bumped out by Marvel Spider-Man 2. Diablo 5 was 4 the previous month. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 version, is 6. It was 5th the month before. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is number 7. Mortal Kombat 1 is 8. Starfield is number 9. It was number 7 the month before. Resident Evil 4, the remake, was number 10. It was number 9 the month before. MLB The Show 23 was number 11. Was number 10 the month before. EA Sports FC 24 was 12th. It was number 14th the month before. Dead Island 2. I was surprised to see Dead Island 2 here. 13th and was 11th the month before. Final Fantasy 16, 14th and 12th the month before. Street Fighter 6 was 15th, 13th the month before. FIFA 23 was 16th and 15th the month before. Elden Ring maintained its 17th rank in the month of October. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon was number 18. It was 16th the month before. Remnant 2 was 19, 18th the month before. And Dead Space Remake was 20th, and it was 19 the month before. So should note that Xbox and Switch digital sales are not included in this as well.
I mean, so to me, the most impressive title out of that is Dead Island 2. A game coming out of the Embracer Group that, again, no one would have predicted. I mean, has no right, in my opinion, to be performing as commercially well
surprised to see that,
as it is. Doesn't have a ton of marketing behind it. So the fact that this game is just getting bought by based on word of mouth is just pretty impressive.
I mean, people love their zombies, right? Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, also kind of fills that niche, that Back 4 Blood. I mean, it's not exactly the same type of game, but it's still a zombie game. Back 4 Blood just didn't do well, and I think Dead Island, I feel like it's closer to a cult classic now because the first one was a long while ago, and this one came out, like you said, not a lot of marketing, but the word of mouth, that's sometimes some of the best selling you can do for a movie or a game.
Yeah. The top 20 titles played on the top 20 titles. Yeah, go ahead, B. I thought B was trying to chime in. All right, so the top 20 titles played on PlayStation 5 for the month of October. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was number 1. Fortnite 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2 was number 3. That's new. Roblox, which debuted last month, was 4th. That's new. Grand Theft Auto was 5. NBA 2K4 was 6. Mortal Kombat 1 was 7th. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales was 8th. The Callisto Protocol was 9th. And Madden 24 was 10th. I'm just going to read the top 10.
So what is behind Callisto Protocol? It was 188th last month. The studio's shutting down now.
I think it's in PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
I believe it's in PlayStation Plus. I'd have to look.
That's really good, though. PlayStation Plus, that's a lot of people who picked up, they picked it up and tried it because that game really didn't hit the marks that people thought it would. So, yeah, the fact that it's in PlayStation Plus and that many people are picking it up, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And that's kind of always been the one positive that I've always argued about subscription services is that for like post retail release, that games that have struggled may find new life in a subscription service. And I think, Corey Massey says Callisto Protocol was a free game. Oh, it was the free game.
Wow.
In PlayStation Plus last month. Wow, look at that.
That's good value.
Yeah, I can't play it. I watched a couple of streamers stream it. I'm like, I wanted to play it, but I'm like, nah, I can't do it.
No, I don't blame you. I can't. I'm not a big horror genre guy, but I did play a couple like Outlast and Dead Space remake, but that one wasn't for me. But I mean, there you go, free game, and it gets picked up. It's like you said. After I heard that the game was buggy too, so I'm guessing they fixed it and it's much better shape now. And there you go, it's picking up steam with player count.
Yeah, another game that moved up the charts was Gotham Knights. It was 50 last month. It's 13th on PlayStation.
Yeah, did it enter? It's on PlayStation Plus now. Did it just enter this month? At the same time that went to Game Pass?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Beginning of September. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to October 23. The top 20 titles played on the Xbox Series consoles. Modern Warfare 2 was number 1. Fortnite was number 2. Grand Theft Auto 5 Remastered was number 3. Starfield number 4. Starfield was number 1 the month prior. Gotham Knights. We just talked about Gotham Knights. It was 90. It was 92 the month before. It's number 5 now.
Wow. People really will try it if you give it to them, or if it's on a subscription model. People will try it.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain games that I will say, I've been interested. I've had some interest in Gotham Knights, but I just didn't pull the trigger. And I've always said to myself, well, maybe if it comes in one of the subscription service, I'll try it out. So yeah, there's definitely games that people may pass on, and then when they get into that subscription service, that might be the kind of the tipping point for them.
And I think that's just a strategic move by WB because now they're starting promotion around the
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, Suicide Squad, Killer Justice League game. So, you give people that taste of, their content, and then, it gives people something to look forward to with that game, and hopefully, try to get some sales out of it, once it releases.
Yep. So, Roblox was 6. Forza Motorsport debuted at number 7. And Minecraft was 8. Rainbow Six Siege was 9. And Warhammer 40,000 Darkside was number 10. And that's new.
I'm curious to see the Forza thing, because it is weird that they haven't posted the 1 million players at launch or anything like that. I am very curious to see how that goes, because I did hear from the diehard Forza fans that this one was, they see what they were doing. There's RPG elements in some of the upgrade paths, but it was missing a lot of features, and there was also just not a ton of content in there. So I am interested to see if it did reach 1 million players.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. That we really haven't heard that, because typically we get something from Microsoft, right? 1 million people played the game or whatever the case is, right? We haven't seen that from them yet. Also, if you go to Steam, what are the Steam user reviews on Forza, Hamp?
33%.
33%. Yeah. Yeah. So there could be something there, All right, I'm not going to go through the rest of the list here.
On the Xbox list. So a few minutes ago, I had to I had to eat crow and admit two things that I was wrong about.
Logic, you've been eating a lot of crow. It's like Thanksgiving. It's like an early Thanksgiving for you.
But one thing I was not wrong about that I constantly argue with people in our chat about was Halo Infinite. Oh, the small player numbers on Steam don't matter. People are really playing that game on the console. Well, guess what? It's not charting in engagement numbers on the console. And as far as I think I checked before, I think it's down somewhere in like the 40th space. So it got a bump this month. It got a little bit of a pickup from the release of Season 5. But the fact of the matter is that there's not tons of people playing Halo Infinite in the way that people used to play the Halo franchise multiplayer. And we're seeing indications of that now in the data.
Yeah, I just actually played Halo Infinite today. They have the Halo 3 Refueled playlist out. Halo Infinite is in it's in a great place. It's just the damage was done though. Like what they did at launch was just unacceptable. And if they never get that back, I can't, you can't blame anybody but themselves. Like the development, I'm not sure how many of you actually know the development behind it. Bonnie Ross wanted to make it into an Overwatch clone after she made Halo 4 into a COD clone, which didn't work. Then she said, no, let's do open worlds for the campaign, but they couldn't finish it on time. They obviously had to delay it in 2020. I mean, Halo Infinite is really just a masterclass in what not to do for development. And yeah, it did get a small bump. I really do think the game's in a great place. If you haven't played it, maybe it's worth, but that player count, I'm not sure it'll ever get back to that point because the damage was done.
I played it this week too. I had a great time playing it, but the unfortunate problem that I'm continuing to see, and it's been this way since, what was it, last year that we tried to go back to it, BRAP, is that I keep seeing the same players, right, that I'm in the pool with showing up match after match after match after match, whether they're on my team or the next team. And that's because just the player base isn't there to provide enough people in the pool rotationally, because that's not the way that it was at launch. But going back to about a year ago, that's definitely the way that it's been. I've tried to cycle into some matches. I tried to cycle into the free for all playlist, and it took like minutes.
Yeah,
to get enough people in. I almost quit out of the game because I had been waiting 2 minutes in the queue.
If you play at night, if you play at like 11, some people are late night owls. If you play at late night, it's going to be rough. Like you can't get ranked games.
Yep.
You can basically get Slayer, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you're right. Like even no, Cal, it's not the matchmaking algorithm. No, it's definitely not that. It's just it's a low player base. Like I'm playing Team Slayer. I'm not playing ranked. I'm playing Team Slayer, and it's you will cycle through the same people. Sometimes you'll back-to-back matches with the same people. Spaghetti, to your point, and you said this earlier this evening. We talked about Halo in the original Xbox. It's a shame. And I'm a big fan of I almost said ham. I'm a big fan of Halo, and it's really a shame what's happened to that franchise.
Yeah,
and I like the new maps in Season 5, by the way. I think there's some of the best maps that they've released, but no one's really playing it anymore.
Yeah, it's so weird to me that they lost their way with the signature game that made Xbox like really popping, And I want to say special shout out to the Halo community members. They did a lot of work to fix this game themselves. Like with Forge, there was a point in Season 4, I don't know if anybody knows, but there was a dedicated playlist to community made maps because that's how bad it was content-wise. They just said, okay, we're going to need help from the fans. And the fans, to their credit, they buckled in and they said, okay, well, we'll make the maps. I really do believe that the potential for Halo to bounce back is there. Maybe not Halo Infinite, but another Halo game, it's there. But this is really just a disheartening situation because it's like we said, like Halo, the original one was this groundbreaking, like you'd never seen anything like it. And for Halo Infinite to be in this state is just so disheartening.
It is. As a Halo fan, it really is. I mean, I hate seeing it because the gameplay, the gunplay, the mechanics are so good.
They did it. They mastered what they were trying to do in Halo 4 and 5, but it felt clunky. This is it. This was like the culmination of 2 games, which is, it doesn't happen. 343 tried to build a lot of things and then they scrapped it. This was one of the things that worked. It's like, yeah, you did it. Like, congratulations on the gameplay, but man, the content was so not there.
Yeah, the content wasn't there. It's missing. And for me, the single player campaign, Halo Infinite, was disappointing. It felt barren to me. It felt disjointed. I would go back and forth with my buddy OBM, who he's like, oh, it's about the sandbox. I'm like, I get it, but
yeah,
the story just didn't have the same I guess how do I describe, like the story just didn't resonate with me in this Halo. And if you're gonna have an open world, why does it feel so barren?
Yeah, so
just
I actually the story for the game, I love the story. The problem is it is not connected to anything, because I actually read like a lot of the Halo books, and the story, it's disjointed. It doesn't make sense. Like you read the book Shadows of Reach, and you learn that Master Chief and Blue Team go to Reach. They end up fighting some of the Banished. They're trying to get something for Cortana, and then you go into Halo Infinite, and none of that matters. They none of the Shadows of Reach matters. Nothing in Halo 5. You don't see anything about any of the characters in Halo 5. And I will say I was almost a little bit moved to tears. I don't want to say spoilers, but with Cortana, it's like, I was almost moved to tears at the end, because there was a little bit of heart in there. But man, I can't believe the campaign. Like, usually Halo campaigns are like one of those shooter campaigns that you look on and say, man, this is really well done. But they missed the mark on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. There were some moments of the campaign where when Chief meets Atriox in that scene, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And then it just doesn't.
It didn't land.
It didn't land. It didn't have that same emotional impact throughout the game. I think Atriox is a great villain. But I feel like
you didn't even get to fight him. You
didn't get to fight him. Yeah.
He just somehow died. Atriox, the guy who took Chief out in like basically one fight, he's just, he just happened to die. Nobody knows how. He just died somehow. It's like, that was like, you were teasing him as the big bad villain. He even got Cortana brought down to Earth, because she had, you remember in Halo 5, she had the whole universe in martial law with the Guardians. And it was Atriox who literally brought her down to Earth and subdued her. And so how did he just die? We don't know. They don't explain it.
And he was such a badass too.
He was.
I mean, as an antagonist, he was a badass. I mean, he was what was it? Halo. What did we see Atriox the first time in the Halo game? It was
the Halo. I think it was the Halo Wars 2. Yeah.
And I remember a lot of the Halo community was like, oh my God, like Atriox, they got to, he's going to be an amazing antagonist, and he's going to be, and then you're right. Like they just offed him. I'm like,
they even introduced weapons for him, like the banished hammer and the bloodshed sword that when you kill somebody, you get active camo. It did nothing with it. It was so disheartening.
Yeah, it really was. Well, yeah. And so, it's really, I think, what did you say, Logic? It's 40th on the playlist for Xbox right now.
I think that's what I saw. It was somewhere down in the 40s.
That's mind boggling to me that Halo is. If you would have told me that 20 years ago, I'd be like, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. But here we are in 2023. All right. I want to move on to the top 20, the October 2023 top 20 titles played on Steam. On PC, which as many of you have heard before, PC is the best gaming platform ever.
Yes,
I'm gonna throw ever in there. Are you a PC? You primarily play on game on PC?
Yeah, I do. I switched to PC. So I'll be honest, I had enough of the Xbox. I was I was sitting there looking through Game Pass, and I legitimately couldn't bring myself to play anything. And I was getting really upset, because it felt like, is it me? Like, do I just not like gaming anymore? So I spent the money, I bought a PC, and I was like, no, it wasn't me. I'm actually very happy right now with my purchase. And so, that happens sometimes. It's not for everybody, but PC gaming, though, I do love it. It is, and if you can get a PC this holiday, there's some good sales. I really suggest you do.
Yes. Listen to Spaghetti. Those are wise words. Player wants to know, where are you getting those numbers? Are you referring to the Halo numbers or the overall engagement numbers? The top 20 games played, because the numbers that I was discussing are from Circana, which was formerly NPD. Player saying Halo Infinite is number 17 most played Xbox. I just checked the Xbox store.
Well, I mean, so the Xbox store is in conflict with what Circana has, and my cut is I'm going to trust Circana.
And this happens a lot with Xbox's numbers. They're always like, I don't know if Microsoft does this on purpose or they're not clear. Like their numbers are always so hard to like pin down. Like with PlayStation Switch, if you want numbers, they're readily available. With Microsoft, it's so
no. He's actually Circana's Halo Infinite is number 17th for hold on a sec here. Nope, it's not. It's not. I'm sorry. Not on Xbox. It's not on Xbox. It's not 17th. I'll tell you where it's 17th. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I mean, Microsoft's numbers, like and we were just talking about Forza Motorsport and how they haven't posted the player count. They have done this strategy of going radio silent on numbers until it's like Starfield, where it's like 10 million, 11 million players. And so I'm not really sure what the Halo Infinite numbers are, but I can tell you they're definitely better than they were, but it's not by a lot.
Hey, and by player, you're asking about wait times. I mean, okay, so what we have a data point that I just said was when I was playing, it took me 2 minutes and I almost quit out to get loaded into the free-for-all round. So now you see it's 1 minute. Okay, great. My point is when I was playing, it was a negative experience for me because it took me longer. The fact that you're seeing it at 1 minute doesn't mean that your experience is the same as my experience. It does actually happen that people will have different experiences depending on where they were. But you know what? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because my comment was about my experience and how that makes me feel about playing Halo. So the fact that you're getting into the queue in 1 minute, that's great. That doesn't change my perspective of the game, though.
Yeah. He's Halo. And by the way, player, the numbers that we're discussing, the engagement numbers I should clarify this, are specific. Again, these are the top 20 titles played on the Xbox Series consoles. This is consoles. So if we look at the top 20 list for consoles, the Xbox Series consoles of games that are being played that were played for the month of October, Halo is not in the top 20. Now, it's a little bit different on PC. So these are the top 20 titles played on Steam for the month of October. Halo Infinite is actually 17th on Steam for the month of
Steam.
October.
That's not bad though for that. I mean, the Steam player count's still not great. But that's not bad. It definitely did get better as they released more content and fixed what was broken. You can see the numbers, but it's like IQ said. Like his experience was 2 minutes. Like that's probably true. I've had experiences with 5 minutes. It varies. You can just check Steam charts and see every different time there's people getting off and getting on. And when you don't have a big player count, that's going to vary your experience drastically.
Yeah. But my main point of that was there was a stark delta between when I was playing Team Slayer and when I went off to the other modes. Now, for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure that I entirely understand why from its game as a service business model strategy, which I said is the problem in my mind with Halo. It's not a matter of the gameplay and the game mechanics by any means. I actually think from a content perspective, they've largely recovered from that bathtub that they were in. But the thing that I constantly say has been the problem with Halo Infinite is that they failed to execute upon the games as a service business model and do what they needed to do to maintain player engagement throughout the entirety of the life cycle to date. So for whatever reason, in Season 5, that list of other modes is the longest that I've ever seen it. Now, I didn't play Halo Infinite at all, I think, during Season 4, but it's weird to me that now, when it appears they're continuing to have the player base problem, they have the most modes that they've ever had during the life cycle. Now, maybe that's because that's their attempt to get people in, but it just seems like if your player base is small, maybe you don't atomize them and spread them out over like 12, 13 different game modes or however many it is. I know that I have to scroll the page to see the number of game modes. Yeah, and my point is that in my experience, what I'm seeing right now is that as I get outside of any of the core modes, like I was playing the doubles mode, which I actually think is a really awesome mode and really cool. I really like it because it's similar to the Call of Duty 2v2 mode. But anytime you get out of those core modes, I at least what I've seen is that I start to experience longer matchmaking times.
Can I just say to the live service idea, you make a great point. Another Bonnie Ross idea, who's no longer there, and we don't know why, but that was, again, she wanted to do live service. She always talked about the broader audience. I really can't state enough what she did to the franchise. And it's so insane because she was there at the start. So she saw what Bungie did to make Halo great and then basically did the opposite. Like that live service pivot was just not needed, not necessary. And it's like you said, you could argue the live service model might be the reason why this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly. I mean, we've said this many times this show. They just haven't executed on the live. It just hasn't worked. The live service model just hasn't worked for this game, which is a shame. But I think what you're saying, logic too, is maybe streamline the content. Maybe
I think
less modes, and then that way you're not spreading everyone out. Yeah,
yeah. I think at this point, with the number of players that I'm seeing, I might only have like 5 modes, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's yeah.
I actually I play a game, Smite. It's a long time MOBA that's been on Xbox now and PlayStation 2. They talk about that. The developers, people want a lot of game modes, but they say you can't spread your player base too thin because then you're going to have long queue times and people won't be able to find games. Yeah. If you condense it to 6 or 7 of the best modes and then just rotate them out. Hey, maybe every 2 weeks we rotate a game mode out and bring another one in.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's see. We'll go back to the Steam numbers here. Counter-Strike 2 is number 1. Counter-Strike's a behemoth on PC. Baldur's Gate 3, which is my personal game of the year, is number 2. Cyberpunk 2077 is number 3. Phantom Liberty is actually a really good DLC. The Finals by Embark Studios debuted at number 4. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is 5. Rocket League is 6. Warhammer 40,000 7. Phasmophobia is 8. Apex Legends 9. Starfield is 10. Team Fortress 2 is 11. Destiny 2 is 12. BattleBit Remaster is 13. Rainbow Six Siege is 14th. Dead by Daylight is 15th. Rust is 16th. Halo Infinite is 17th. Deep Rock Galactic is 18th. Dota 2 is 19th. And Terraria is 20th. So those are the top 20 titles played on Steam for the month of October 2023. Let's see here. Do we have one more number to go here? All right. In terms of hardware sales, according to Matt Piscatella, video game hardware spending fell 23% when compared to a year ago to $327 million. All current generation consoles experienced a double-digit percentage decline in dollar sales when compared to a year ago. Matt went on to say that PlayStation 5 was the best-selling hardware platform in both unit and dollar sales during October 2023. Someone did ask Matt if PlayStation 5 is the top-selling hardware in terms of dollars and dollars and units for 2023. He said yes, it still is. But PlayStation 5 was again tops in both units and dollar sales for October 2023. Xbox Series ranked second in dollar sales, while the Nintendo Switch was number 2 in units sold for the month of October 2023. So those are the well, I almost said NPD, but the Circana numbers for October 2023.
Yeah, I'm very curious for the hardware side. There was, when Microsoft fixed the servers for the older Call of Duties, they had apparently a spike in console sales. So now that the deal's closed, I'm curious to see if they will start turning the hardware ship around because they've been on 2022 did a lot of damage to them. And they're still feeling it, even with Starfield, even with Forza, and they had Hi-Fi. It's still declining. So I'm interested to see if maybe dropping in Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, maybe the next year's Call of Duty, is that going to get people to buy Xbox consoles or not?
Yeah, I mean they've been seeing like negative growth the last 4 consistent straight quarters.
Yeah,
for Xbox hardware sales.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that's something that if sales are something that picks up for them, but we'll see. One sec here. Player Places selling games day one on Steam eats a lot of console sales too.
Does it? Because I feel like those are two different audiences.
Yeah, player. I would agree with you. Spigdretti, I would agree with you on that. That two different addressable markets. Two different consumers. I'm not saying that you don't have people like me who got rid of their Series X console and decide to go PC. But I don't think it's that I wouldn't say a lot that it eats a lot or that it would be the reason why you see negative growth, because they're two different addressable markets.
No, I think I think what he's saying is because there's day and date going into this generation is that fewer people total were incentivized to buy an Xbox Series console in the first place. Because you would have lost that chunk of players that also plays on PC.
Yeah, but I mean, but we were seeing at one point the Xbox Series consoles tracking ahead of the Xbox One. At one point.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredibly low bar though.
Well, I mean, I get that,
I can go out to
but now it's
a street corner, open a lemonade stand, and sell better than the Xbox One. You know,
oh, come on, a lemonade stand.
Yes, man.
We have to remember that the Xbox One struggle coming out of the gate, so beating it is not that great of a feat.
Well, but the one actually had a great launch. It was a little shortly after where it plummeted like a rock. I actually think it was outselling the PS4, and then and again, there's a lot of reasons why, but it just fell like a rock. And legitimately, people just couldn't buy it. Like you couldn't give it away.
Yeah, and where I kind of disagree with players that like the Xbox Series consoles were, and this is in light of supply chain issues because of the pandemic, was actually outpacing the series, the Xbox One. I understand it's a low bar, but now it's trekking behind it because of the negative growth.
Well, yeah, I mean because at the launch of the generation, you had a faith bump, right? Mm-hmm. You had a, oh my God, here's the next generation. It's time to hit the do-over button, right? Let's get in the pool and hope that this thing goes well. But then they failed to release at a steady cadence, compelling content, and you saw that bow wave get blunted. I mean, you and I have talked. When you go back and look through and dig through all their financial reports, like I've been doing, you can see at the point in the slide deck where they stop attributing the growth in the consumer electronics division. I can't remember what that division is called, right? That reporting segment, because Microsoft only has 3. And for the first part of the generation through about, I don't know, maybe the 18 or 19 month point, there was growth in that, and that was it was constantly attributed on their earnings reports to gaming. And then you could see the point, right, in their earnings reports where they stop making that comment. And then you could see the point where they actually start attributing the decline for that reporting segment and attributing that to a backslide in games. So I mean, it's clear that even in Microsoft's own eyes, there's been a turning of the shrew, right, over the life cycle of the console. But all I'm saying is that you have a chunk of the addressable market who went PC, and right, wrong, or indifferent, right? You know, PC gamers who also have a console. Obviously, that's the obvious question. Why would I bother having an Xbox Series when all of those games are also available on PC? But I have to have a PlayStation 5 because those exclusives don't show up on PC for a year to 2 years later.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing.
I
did this.
Like I don't need my Xbox. I was frustrated, and I said I'm getting a PC. I'm done.
Yeah,
so
that's the same thing with me, Spectretti. It's the same thing that I did. And look, I'm not saying that there's zero impact. I just don't think that it's a huge impact, and that's why we're seeing negative growth.
No, I agree. It's in the noise, and it's at this point it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like you can map it to the analog of Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite backslid so much that it's got its own gravity well growing. It's become its own black hole, and I don't believe it's possible for that thing to climb out of the bathtub. And I think the console's in the same place. You know, I keep talking about they are currently 9 to 12% of the install base, right, for the console market. And I just don't know that they're going to climb back out of that hole this generation.
I do think 2022 did probably the most damage. Like Phil Spencer in that email to the internal one, he straight up was upset. He very clearly was upset about what happened. Like they didn't have a single game. I think they had Pentiment, but that's a very Game Pass centric game. That's not a system seller or even something that many people, even with Game Pass, might try out. I really think that was 2022 was just awful for them.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a good year. you know, and in 2023, much better, but but I mean, Starfield helped, and it was that stealth launch of Hi-Fi Rush was great, but I don't disagree. 2022 was pretty. I mean, look, the first 2 years of this console generation for the Xbox Series console in terms of exclusive content that moves the needle for it, it was non-existent.
Yeah,
and it's good. I think that's going to be kind of a. I hate to say this, a lot of the diehards, the Xbox community. I feel like this is kind of every console generation. It's like a broken record. Oh, wait till so and so comes out. Okay.
well, let's see. I mean, they are having an admittedly better 2023, and they have now, of course, delays with them. It seems like it's inevitable, but let's see. Hi-Fi, Starfield, Forza. Okay, so let's hope that we get Hellblade gameplay for once, not cinema. I mean, like actual gameplay where we see them attacking. Let's hope Towerborn, and also I think Avowed they said is 2024. So let's hope, if those games land and they're executed well, we could see it start to turn. But they have, you can't keep releasing. Redfall wasn't entirely their fault, but that just can't keep happening. It's going to prevent any type of growth, and then that stigma stays with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they could release some good games that are reviewed well. I think this goes back to kind of what we talked about during the OG Xbox era, the 360 era. They just don't need good games. They need games that motivate people to go out and want to own an Xbox console. And I don't want to hear anyone in the live chat that say hardware sales don't matter anymore. That's the old metric. It does matter to them because they're frankly invested and they're making the hardware. They're not making this hardware for free.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and I think B, you said this maybe 2 weeks ago. You want to sell more hardware for what? To help grow Game Pass subscription numbers. That's new console sold, new owner of the Xbox ecosystem is potentially a new Game Pass subscriber or customer. Can
I also just say one last point? Cloud streaming, Game Pass, hardware. A man of many talents is a master of nothing. I think, you've seen Sony really focus on the PS5, and then everything connects to the PS5. The PS Portal that just released, PS5-centric device. The headsets and everything, it's all connected to that one console that they have. It's great that Xbox has options. That could be to their detriment because, again, a man of many talents is a master of nothing sometimes.
Yeah, no, I understand that point. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I do want to move on for because we're getting close to 11 o'clock. I do want to go over the Game Awards. The 2023 nominees were announced on Monday at the Keeleys, as I call them. Let's see. Let me go to. I'm just going to run through a couple of these pretty quickly, and then there's some ones that I want to talk about a little more. I'm going to start from the bottom here. Best esports event 2023 League of Legends World Championship, Blast.tv Paris Major 2023, Evo 2023, their National Dota 2 Championships 2023, Valorant Champions of 2023. So, I just get out of the. There we go. All right, best East. This one's funny, by the way. All right, so this is interesting. Best esports coach. And look at the criteria. Esports coach judged to be the most outstanding in performance and conduct in 2023. Christine Potter, Chi, Danny Zonic, Sorensen, Jordan Gunba, Graham, Remy. I'm not gonna Ecstasy. Thank you, Ecstasy. And Yoon Home Sung Young. Now, I believe it was Remy who tweeted that he hasn't coached at all in 2023. He's like, look, just remove me from this nomination list because I haven't coached at all in a year or this year in 2023. So I thought it was kind of interesting, considering their criteria is that this is for coach, judged to be the most outstanding for performance and conduct in 2023. And he hasn't coached in 2023. So
that just goes back to the point you guys were making earlier about the way that the show is structured and the people that they have on the board and how these categories come together. all of that needs to change, because how is that even possible that this coach is nominated and he didn't coach at all this year? That means that whoever came up with the nominees, they weren't even tapped into that category. They know nothing about what's going on in esports.
Yep. They need a quality control person that's actually like tapped in and knows what's going on, because this is a quality issue. You know, that this guy didn't coach, and he's saying it, you know, he's not lying. I didn't coach in 2023. You got to have somebody on this that's making sure each nomination, each game that's up for a nomination fits the criteria.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let's go to best esports team. Evil Genius, Fnatic, Gaming Gladiators, JD Gaming, and Team Vitality. Some of these, I gotta be honest. Some of these, a lot of these categories in the bottom here, I just don't care for. Like, I don't care about best. I really don't care about best. You know what? I'm going to skip these. I'm sorry. Like, unless you guys want to talk about them.
Cal in the chat is saying no comments on esports. You're right, Cal. I texted BRAP as I was stepping away. I said, yeah, keep reading esports. That shit doesn't matter. So that's our comment about the esports category. I think those categories are there to appeal to the whole live streamer crowd and the people who follow them. And look, I'm going to make this comment, and some people are going to dislike me for saying it, but I used to say it when I was part of the live streaming community. They are less important than they think they are. And so I think those categories do what they need to do to put a little bit of oil on those wheels, but they really don't matter at all, I don't think.
Just stuff to add to the menu.
Yeah. Best esports game. I'll cover this because this is actually video game content. Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, League of Legends, PUBG Mobile, and Valorant. All right, we'll go to content. You know what? I don't care about content creator either. I'm going to skip that. I just don't. I really don't. Unless you guys want to talk about it. By the way, if I say that I don't care to talk about a particular category, but you do, just let me know. If you want to talk about it, that's fine. But if not, I'll just skip over it. All right, most anticipated game, and this is one we talked about the more extreme elements of the Xbox community that people are actually upset about, and this goes back to the Xbox tax. And
really,
I can't believe that there's no Xbox game. What about Hellblade 2? I can't,
Oh my god,
haven't shown anything.
Jackasses weren't playing Hellblade when it was a game that was available only on PlayStation. When it came to Xbox, nobody played the fucking game. Stop complaining about games that nobody cared about. You guys didn't care about the game. You only care about it now because it's an exclusive. But you didn't care about the game. I, for years, was talking about that game. Was so impressed about the subject matter of the game. I went out and supported that game. Day one, bought a bunch of merch from that game. None of you jackasses were talking about the game. I was talking about the game on Twitter for years. Nobody cared. So stop trying to act like you care about this game now just because it's an exclusive, because you motherfuckers didn't care. You don't care now for real. So stop it.
I also wish they would just show more about the game. I mean, what I've seen is cool, but I would love to see actual gameplay for a game that's supposed to come out. I mean, we're almost in 2024, so I would love to see what actually the game is like.
Yeah.
When was it first spoken about or announced? Was 2019?
Yeah, 2019 Game Awards.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the category here, illustrate potential to push the game medium forward, but I mean, you mentioned this logic. I think that if you look at the install base being 16%.
Yeah, that's lofty. 9 to 12.
9 to 12. I'm sorry, 9 to 12%. I mean, I'm not surprised that an Xbox game isn't in here. I mean, some of these games are games that have pretty broad brand appeal.
Well, as I was saying, I mean, let's look at it. It's 120 journalists who voted on this thing, and let's just be quite honest. The slates for the consoles next year are murky. And yes, Xbox has announced a bunch of stuff. None of those things have dates. They have 2024, or they have no date at all. And so you would imagine that 120 people going into a booth to vote aren't going to vote on something that has the high potential to be vaporware, particularly given Xbox's track record for the last 3 years. And PlayStation just hasn't announced a lot. So just like BRAP is saying, like all of these games that are on here are cross-platform titles.
Well, except for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah. But that was also announced with great certainty. Yeah.
And that has a release date of, I think, is it January or February 2024? I don't remember.
I think it's January.
Yeah. And that's a title that has a lot of appeal and is a marquee franchise. I mean, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2. I'm really excited for Hades 2, by the way. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. Those are the games.
Can't wait for Tekken 8.
Tekken 8 actually looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been to Tekken in years. B-Money. I actually might pull the trigger on this one.
Yeah, man. Gotta have Tekken 8 day one.
Yeah. But these are. I mean, these games. I mean, like if I don't have an issue with any of these games. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is something I'm looking forward to as well.
The Man Who Erased His Name is really good, and I can't wait for Infinite Wealth now. And then I'm not a big Star Wars person, but something about Outlaws reminds me of the Star Wars Rogue One. There's
Rogue One, yes.
It feels like a Rogue One, smaller, contained story. I can't wait for that.
Yep. I don't know. Do I want to go to best adaptation?
This is a competitive one, though.
Yeah, here we go. Best adaptation. Recognizing outstanding creative work that faithfully and authentically adapts a video game to another entertainment medium. Castlevania Nocturne. I can't pronounce that.
Nocturne.
Nocturne, thank you. I always butcher that. Gran Turismo. I haven't seen Gran Turismo. I have seen Castlevania Nocturne. The Last of Us, which I've seen. Super Mario Brothers movie and Twisted Metal. I've seen everything but Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo should win this category.
You think so, B? I haven't seen the movie, so I can't speak to it. But for me, it comes down to I would pick The Last of Us. I think this is a very strong list, by the way. Again, I haven't seen Gran Turismo, but I've heard some people say some very positive things about it.
I just want to say the third episode of The Last of Us was like one of the greatest episodes in television streaming history.
Which one was that? Was that the one where they go to?
It's the episode the couple they're at the house and they're basically living out their life, and it's just this. It was such a it was just such a well written story because in the game you really don't get to see this couple much. I think you just hear about their death. And
you read like letters and notes and stuff in the game. Yeah, this fleshes out.
Tell you.
Yeah. They fleshed out this character. Yeah,
it was so the ending truly was like. What I think of The Walking Dead when Negan first came out, that first episode, he had everybody lined up. The Last of Us episode 3 is truly one of the greatest episodes I've ever been aware. It's like Breaking Bad level. So I would actually go with The Last of Us, but the Mario movie was amazing too.
Yeah. Now, B, you said Gran Turismo, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie. I'm assuming you've seen it, then.
I mean, The Last of Us has they do a pretty good job. As far as like adapting a lot of stuff from the game, but they also, have a lot of creative freedom and add stuff that isn't in the game as well. I think when you look at what the Gran Turismo story of, some kid learning how to play or learning how to really race and then becoming a professional driver, that's a straight adaptation of what really happened. So I think that's closer to what the category speaks to.
Yeah, I need to watch that movie. By the way, episode 3 of The Last of Us was called Long Time, and it features the love story of Bill and Frank, which you meet Bill in The Last of Us, but they really flesh out his background, his character in this game. And there's also at the end, there's that Linda Ronstadt song, Long Time, which is a 70s ballad, which actually after that episode ended up peaking, I think, on one of the music streaming services. I forget which one. But I actually found myself listening to that song quite a bit after
It was
watching
so
episode
good.
3. Yeah,
That
it was really
episode,
good.
what I think that episode does best, it provides you an immersion because they chose and both of them, right? Because they both took the poison that ended up they slowly died together. That shows you how grim the world is, but they found that bit of happiness together, and they lived their life and they were happy with it. And then Joel's reading the letter, and it's just so it like the world building, because it's like, man, like you're putting yourself in your shoes. It's like, man, like these people through all of what's happening found that, and now Joel has to, he even says, like, you're the type of person that protects people, carry on, get this, however you can, carry on. And it was just such a beautiful episode.
It really was. It really was. I mean, it's, and I gotta say, Twisted Metal, I was really like, when they announced that they were in production for a Twisted adaptation, a television adaptation of Twisted Metal, I was like, are they gonna pull, like, how are they gonna pull this off? I gotta say, I found the show to be pretty entertaining. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean, like Sweet Tooth, Samoa Joe actually plays Sweet Tooth. Doesn't do the voice for Sweet Tooth. I forget who, former SNL alum, I forget his name, does the voice for Sweet Tooth. But Samoa Joe, the professional wrestler, plays Sweet Tooth and everything. But I was surprised. I was really surprised how well that adaptation was. It really exceeded my expectations. So
I have to watch it still.
Oh, definitely check it out. It's pretty. I thought it was pretty good. Sweet Tooth is a very, very interesting character. But Super Mario Brothers movie, I love this adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought it was great. I know it was kind of on the fence about what's his name being the voice actor of Mario, but I thought Chris Pratt, I thought he did a great job. Actually, I thought it actually worked out well. I thought it was a pretty good movie. It wasn't too long. It was, but yeah, it was definitely a really good movie. I enjoyed it. All right, let me go to some of the other categories here. Again, I may skip some of these. It's got a best multiplayer here. Best multiplayer. Baldur's Gate 3, which should win. Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
What?
All right.
I don't know how Mario's in there.
What kind of? Come on now. Let's stop.
All right, B. What's going on, man? What?
let's stop this foolishness, man.
Are you saying a game shouldn't be here, or there's a game?
Most of these games should not be in this category.
Really, you don't think Diablo 4 should be there?
Diablo 4 could be there. Party Animals could be there. Street Fighter, Baldur's Gate 3 should not.
Mario.
Be. And Super Mario should not be in this category.
Oh man, I know people who play Baldur's Gate 3 online co-op, and they love it. They say it's fantastic. I actually spoke to somebody who's interesting. I've come across a couple people who still play D&D. Actually, one individual I spoke to is a dungeon master, and he said like the online multiplayer portion of the game is phenomenal. They really enjoy it.
That's great.
I don't have an issue. Yeah, I don't have an issue with Baldur's Gate 3. I haven't played Party Animals. I haven't played Street Fighter 6. I haven't played Super Mario Brothers Wonder yet. I'm okay with Diablo 4. I don't have an issue with that or Baldur's Gate 3.
I think Diablo 4, because the launch was so massive, it like has to be there. And I don't mind Baldur's Gate 3. Street Fighter 6 is a great game, but Mario Wonder, I don't know how that's there.
All right. Best sports racing. This is Hamp's territory here. EA Sports FC 24, F1 23, Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, Turbocharged, and the Crew Motorfest.
I heard the Crew Motorfest was really, really good. I wouldn't be surprised if it wins.
I haven't played any of these games.
I've played the Crew Motorfest. It's maybe better than I thought it was going to be, but it's nowhere near the polish and execution of F1 23.
Who do you think wins
of these categories being combined?
Why
can't
I'm not
we
a
just
fan
have
of
a
that
racing category and a sports category? Because why is FIFA or FC or the EA Sports Football Club in the same category with 4 other racing games. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, and usually I agree. I do think we are seeing. I mean, I do think there are more racing games this year. I mean, they could have put EA WRC in here. I think there's some racing games that didn't make it in here. I mean, my personal vote would probably be for F123. But I think it's going to come down to EA Sports FC24 and F123. I think EA Sports FC24 is. I mean, it didn't miss a beat at all for losing the FIFA license, and I think that's impressive, and it's a good game that's tightly woven. That I don't think, like I said, has skipped a beat. And F123 is just kind of, it's the culmination of the past few years of what they've been building and what they've been iterating on, in the game. And I think it controls better, the best that it has ever. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be something somewhere between those two.
Mm-hmm. All right. What's up, Slummo? We just got Slummo in here.
Yeah, what up?
Slummo, you're very loud.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe you were screaming into your mic. My ears started bleeding.
Okay, let me
No, you're good now. You're good now. You're good.
All right.
All right. Best fighting game. God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6.
I will say, for Mortal Kombat 1 to not have Anthony Starr, the actor for Homelander, voice Homelander in the game is such a like I don't know how that doesn't, a deal isn't made there. So for that reason, I'm going to say Street Fighter 6 because he's such a good Homelander. Like how can you fumble that? That's such a no-brainer.
All right, let's go to, and by the way, again, I'm not going through all the categories here. I'm not going to do best family. Go to best RPG here. Slow-mo's favorite category.
A lot of controversy with this one.
Yeah, Liza P. I saw people kind of going back for it. Liza P. It's not RPG.
Yeah, and Final Fantasy too.
All right, so here we go. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Liza P. Sea of Stars, Starfield is there.
I don't understand people's issue with Liza P. Liza P is a Souls-like game.
Yeah, it's Elden Ring RPG. Is Dark Souls RPG?
Yeah, no,
it's the same damn game.
It's an action RPG, so I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, no, it definitely is an RPG. The developer classes as such too, and yeah, I mean, I really don't. There aren't any games I felt like should have been on this list. There aren't. Great to see Sea of Stars on there.
I think it was Octopath Traveler 2 that was people were saying.
Octopath Traveler 2 is kind of that was kind of a one that kind of yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, people were so I haven't played Final Fantasy 16, but people were saying that God of War Ragnarok is more of an RPG than Final Fantasy 16, and so Octopath should be on there and not Final Fantasy. I haven't played Final Fantasy 16, so I can't personally say, but I did see a lot of discourse about that.
I mean, I wouldn't exclude it for that reason. I would probably say that I think Octopath Traveler 2 is probably, I don't know who you take out, but it should have been in here, as well as Chained Echoes, because Chained Echoes came out last December.
Yeah,
and so that means it wasn't eligible last year, so it should have been eligible this year because Chained Echoes is awesome. So Chained Echoes should have been in here too. So, but considering what the award show is, they probably weren't going to have more than one old school kind of nostalgia, kind of Super Nintendo old school RPG kind of game. So they put Sea of Stars in here instead, which is fine. But I mean,
it's a good game too.
Yeah, it's a really good game. So
like something, it was musical chairs. Something wasn't going to make it, and it just happened to be Octopath Traveler 2. I mean, this RPGs this year did really well. So it was, there was going to be a fan base that was going to be upset.
Yeah. I have Baldur's Gate 3 winning this category.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. Best action adventure. Why is there best action adventure and best action game?
People talked about that. I have no idea.
I think best action adventure probably has more parkour or platforming, I guess.
traversal too, maybe.
Yeah. I could see. Yeah, I could see that based on. Well, I mean, Resident Evil 4 doesn't have a lot of traversal. It does. I mean, yeah.
I mean, they describe best action game as best game in the action genre focused primarily on combat.
Yeah.
And then action adventure is combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
Yeah, I mean, it's staring me right in the face, and I'm here
should not be here. Alan Wake 2 should not be in this category
what category should it be in, Slubbo? Should it be in this
category?
In the NyQuil category?
Yeah, exactly. Best action. Come on, get the.
Well, remember, it's puzzle solving too, traversal and puzzle solving.
The puzzles are trash. Those puzzles are easy, man.
Man, all right.
I'm surprised there's no. I guess I didn't realize it before. There is no survival horror category because obviously that's what I would have put Alan Wake in and Resident Evil.
Yeah, I will say this though, like these are. I think these are pretty. In my opinion, I think these are solid nominations. I mean, I haven't played Alan Wake 2. I played Spider-Man. I played Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I played Tears of the Kingdom. Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 has great puzzles. They're not totally. I mean, they're not really hard. The puzzle elements in Tears of the Kingdom from these are I think much better than Resident Evil 4. Like those.
Yeah, they're difficult.
Yeah, they're difficult, but they're fun to solve and very rewarding when you do. The traversal, I think from a traversal, I mean, if I think about traversal, this list, I would go with Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I can see that. I thought
or Legend of Zelda would be another one that's strong. Has great traversal. I
thought Jedi Survivor's traversal was actually very good. It's probably one of the best aspects of Jedi Survivor. I mean, that's probably the best thing I can say about it, honestly.
All right, let's go to best action game. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Remnant 2.
I'm choosing Remnant 2. I actually just got finished playing the DLC. That's why
I saw you playing. Yeah,
Remnant 2 is awesome.
I haven't played anything. I played a little bit of Hi-Fi Rush 2. Hi-Fi Rush, but I haven't played these other games, so I really can't comment.
I really think if Hi-Fi Rush was going to win one, it would be this one. Like it's not. I don't think there's a clear favorite, but Hi-Fi Rush, what they did with the music and then making sure that if you are on time with the beat, you get like bonus damage and stuff. That was a really cool feature for the game.
I can see that.
All right. So let's go to. I don't care about best VR. Do you guys want to talk about best VR AR? All right, let's move on. I'm fine with that. Best mobile game. I'm okay.
No one cares.
Best debut indie game.
I mean, I don't know anything about anyone else. I don't remember anything that's in that category.
Well, Pizza Tower is really good.
Pizza Tower, Cocoon, which I heard a lot of positive things about. It's on here.
Cocoon's probably going to win that. Honestly.
Dredge, which I know Logic has talked quite a bit about. Venba and Viewfinder are the other ones.
Yeah, the most positive buzz I've heard is around Cocoon and Dredge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This next category has actually caused a little bit of controversy.
Yeah.
Best independent game. It really comes down to Dave the Diver. Mint Rocket being a subsidiary of Nexon, which is a very large Korean publisher, has been nominated Best Independent Game. Now, the criteria here is for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publishing system. Now, my understanding is Mint Rocket actually published this game. What I'm trying to figure is like,
so I have
also fun. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, so the community notes was on this one, and they basically took they said that it wasn't an indie game, but they also have a quote from the CEO of, I believe, Nexus, saying that this game may look like an indie game, but it's not necessarily an indie game. And this is just another, like, I feel, issue with quality control, because Baldur's Gate 3 is an indie game, unless I'm mistaken. I believe that's an indie game. And so, obviously, maybe it was they didn't want Baldur's Gate 3 to win everything, but Dave the Driver, this is very clearly not an indie game. And if it, a lot of people were saying that the term indie game has become more of a genre rather than what it used to be, which was like independently published and made games. So I understand the controversy. I really do think that no matter where you saw, if you think, it was published by Mint Rocket, so it still counts, or you think it doesn't, I really do really wish Jeff Keighley would have a quality control person for this, because, publicity is fine, but this was kind of a really big issue.
But I guess I want to maybe take a stance on data, right? I mean, the game is published by Mint Rocket. That is how it's registered on Steam.
Yes.
That means Nexon did not publish it. That means that revenue and the arrangement between them and Steam is between them and Mint Rocket. The fact that they're owned by Nexon, I get people's having their emotions in a twist about that, but that's a statement of perspective on, the state of the industry, not necessarily a problem with the TGAs. And so my feeling, and then Baldur's Gate 3, yes, they're an indie, but again, the board, right, votes for the voting panel, the jury votes for who's going to get into these categories. And so 120 people, again, went into a ballot booth and did not cast ballots for Baldur's Gate 3, at least not in numbers that got it into this category. And so, I feel like the jury needs to vote as the jury's going to be allowed to vote. And I don't know that because they, come up with results that we don't agree with, that necessarily means that there's a problem with the process. Well, it's just that 120 people had a different opinion than we did.
Well, no, the jury can't be blamed because they're just doing what's, it's brought in front of them, so they vote, and this is what it came to. It really just comes down to, the options that they're being given. If they, if there was a quality control person that said, hey, by the way, Dave the driver does not, by our criteria standards, it doesn't meet indie game, and it was taken off of the menu for voting, well, we might have a different game here. You are right. Like, this is on Steam. If you look, it is, all of it goes to Mint Rocket. It is published by Mint Rocket. Community notes obviously is different. The CEO says something different. So it really is kind of a perspective thing, I think. But it just does show me that, like, because this was something, I don't think Jeff Keighley saw this coming. I don't think anybody at the Game Awards saw this kind of discourse coming. I think the tweet had like 2 million views. This definitely was something that if there was somebody that was, reviewing all this stuff to make sure everything looks good, this would have been picked up.
Yeah, I believe this was kind of a point of contention and kind of funny too. I think they were debating this too. And I'm sorry, so real quick, I just want, as I'm reading this, and because I'll forget this, when I see outside the traditional publisher system, is that what do they mean by traditional publisher system? They mean like by like a publisher the size of an EA?
No, I think what that means is that
like, what does it mean?
The traditional publisher arrangement is that you code and you develop a game. I pick up, as the publisher, I pick up marketing. I pick up distribution. I pick up all the admin and logistics that have to do with delivering that thing as an executable beyond the boundaries of your studio walls. And so my thing is, I mean,
But doesn't that also include budget? Because traditional publishers always have way more money than an independent developer that's just self-publishing their own game. Like, because that's typically the reason why developers end up getting into some of the situations they get in, where they end up losing their IP, or they don't really have the control they want to have, is because they need the budget that a traditional publisher has. So, like,
do you mean budgeting source or budgeting level?
What's the difference?
I guess what I'm asking is, are you saying? I'm not understanding exactly where you're arguing from.
I'm talking about the fact that, like, they can fund a game at where the budget is much larger than what most independent developers have.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I would say if the employees of Mint Rocket are employees of Nexon in the traditional sense, where Nexon pays them a salary, and so in essence the game was budgeted by Nexon, or the budget was provided by Nexon, and Nexon greenlit Dave the Diver in a traditional sense of governance, where Mint Rocket went to Nexon and said, hey, we would like permission to work on this game. then yes, that would be much more so aligned under the traditional publisher system. What I'm saying is I don't know that we know that that's the way it went down.
Okay, but I'm just thinking of this, like if Mint Rocket is owned by Nexon, I mean, are they just own them, but they don't, like, we give them zero money? Because like I think, like, sure, Mint Rocket doing all their own marketing and all their own social media and all their own, like, all that extra stuff that you have to do to get your game out there, just like, say, Sabotage Studio for Sea of Stars is fine, but Sabotage Studio is eating ramen noodles and making their game out of, like, a buddy's garage. Meanwhile, like, whatever this other studio's name is, got a nice little cushy, suite, courtesy of Nexon with, anything that they need. It's like, it's sure it's the same, but not really, because it's like, there's a level of resources that you have that the other people in that category don't have. That's why, or I'm trying to find where the lines are.
Well,
with that.
The article that
aren't those other games published by other companies though, like Thunderful and Team 17 and I think
Enrique, can you go back to the previous one, because like I don't even. We were looking at something different.
So the article, by the way, that was attached to the community notes post, there is a picture and a Q&A of the I guess the developers of Mint Rocket's the driver. They were at Nexon G-Star 2022 talking about the game, which is obviously a Nexon event. So it has to lead me to believe that there was some type of funding for this game from Nexon.
Yeah, Annapurna Interactive is definitely a traditional publisher at this point. I mean, they've published so many games. So, I mean, they're smaller budgeted games, but they're still a traditional publisher. They do the same thing that EA does. So, I guess, I mean, I don't understand the criteria that they based all these decisions on. If it's supposed to be outside the traditional publisher system, and as B Money just said, Thunderful Publishing has published games before too. So, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess first of all, the chat I think always likes us to caveat. So we're definitely speculating at this point,
right?
I'm operating from the assumption that while there's a publisher listed here, that it is in some way not the traditional arrangement, and that could be marketing, that could be IP ownership, that could be distribution rights, it could be some other weird delta, right? Because deals get made and they're not necessarily they don't necessarily check all the tick boxes. But back to specifically Dave the Diver, right? We've definitely clearly seen instances where we're having either a direct publishing deal or a very close alignment with a publisher doesn't necessarily mean that you're under the traditional publishing arrangement. And my for instances, let's look at Hello Games and No Man's Sky, right? So clearly there was funding provided by PlayStation. Clearly there was backing and close alignment with PlayStation, but PlayStation wasn't the publisher of No Man's Sky. And so that means whatever that arrangement was, it was just not the standard traditional publisher arrangement where I'm EA, I go to you as an independent studio, and I say, I'm going to fund you to build this game. And when you get done with it, I'm going to own the IP, and then I'm going to take it off your hands, and I'm going to be the one who pushes it to Steam and pushes it to all these places and make sure it gets done and does all the marketing, yada, yada, yada. Another example is Embracer Group. So Embracer Group has different publishers within the group, but sometimes their studios get something published by people that are outside of Embracer Group. Sometimes they self-publish. There are subordinate publishing arms underneath the umbrella of Embracer Group. And so those arrangements don't necessarily tunnel all the way back to Embracer Group. Sometimes they tunnel back to THQ Nordic. They're just different arrangements. I mean, so whatever the definition of traditional publisher system. So all I'm saying is that the belief that things are in this category, or that Dave the Diver's in this category in some type of breach of compliance of the rule set, I just don't know that we know enough to make that assertion.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the conversation going either way. I mean, I think there's I could certainly see it going both ways.
And I don't know.
We also don't know enough. I don't think some of the things that you brought up, Logic, and some of the things Slomo brought up in terms of funding, things like that. And
I'm not saying any of these are bad ideas. I'm just saying inserting a person who is labeled as QA doesn't mean that we're not going to have 6 other issues that people are going to have a problem with. I mean, I think this is my overall thing with the Game Awards. We are never going to get to a state where there is zero controversy and there is some notion that these things are entirely altruistic and don't disenfranchise somebody. That's when we push on the jelly blob, we're just going to move the problem and the thing over to some other place. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is the thing with like the Oscars and the Grammys and all these award shows, right? At the end of the day, there's some perceived rule set. We watch them, we celebrate the teams that get awarded, and then we go on about our business.
Yeah. All right. I do want to move on to let's see here. Best ongoing game.
This is God.
Slomo's favorite category here. Best ongoing.
Looking at this.
Awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Genshin Impact. I love Fortnite. I did really like Phantom Liberty.
Cyberpunk should not be in this.
You don't think so? Phantom Liberty?
Best
Phantom
ongoing content.
Yes, that evolves the players.
Dropping an expansion 3 years after you launch the game is an ongoing content.
That's ongoing.
That wasn't ongoing. No, content stopped.
That's ongoing.
No.
The development was ongoing.
Ongoing content that players can play.
It doesn't say that. It says
content.
It says award to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time.
Is consistent content throughout a short period of time.
That's live service. That's not. And also, are we?
That's this category. This category.
Look at the wording. Outstanding development of
live service.
Outstanding development of ongoing content. Development of content that's going to keep the game ongoing.
The other 4 games are live service.
Are we going to penalize Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red because it took them longer? I mean, their game is far more complicated than, let's say, Fortnite, who has the infrastructure to just throw the OG map in and then a month later put a new Season 5 map in. Like, there is obviously a conversation to be had about maybe they should have a best live service, best ongoing, 2 categories. But Cyberpunk definitely
like sports and racing.
Exactly, yeah. But Cyberpunk, it took them a while. The game took a while to come out, but this is technically ongoing content.
No, we're not doing that. So you guys are wrong. Slow-mo's right.
No,
ongoing content is regularly delivered ongoing content over the life cycle of the title.
Seasonal content.
I don't see seasonal or regular on there.
I'll bridge the gap. I don't necessarily agree with Slow-mo that it has to be seasonal. If there was some type of episodic content that updated Cyberpunk, I would be okay with that. But they've released one DLC. If it was Destiny 2, it wasn't battle passes, but it was like those ongoing expandables that release like every 6, 12, 18 months, 9 months, whatever, that would be fine. But that's not Cyberpunk.
Yes, and by the way, this is the only DLC they're delivering for this game. So they delivered one DLC 3 years later. You want to call it ongoing content?
It doesn't say there has to be a minimum amount of DLC.
It doesn't need to say that.
Why? This is the criteria, Slobo.
6 paragraphs to explain to you what ongoing content is.
This is quality control.
What are the other 4 games? The other 4 games are live service games.
Look, I'm gonna say we agree to disagree.
But this is where quality control person, this would be
right.
Hey, we don't need a quality control person on the votes to tell us that CD Projekt Red sucks. The fact that they suck means that they don't get into the category.
Oh, okay. So
it's next category.
No, we're not doing that logic. No,
I'm just saying. Look, they loved Phantom Liberty, and Phantom Liberty is awesome, and they wanted to shoehorn Cyberpunk in here as much as they could because they couldn't shoehorn it in 2020.
It should have been Game of the Year.
2 years too early.
Because they don't have a DLC category or an expansion pack category, they put it here.
It was an incomplete game.
And that's on
CDPR leadership for being.
Look,
money hungry and
I don't
delivering a game.
I don't
2
disagree
years
with
too
that.
early.
But isn't DLC part of like development of ongoing content?
Yeah, but if they had delivered
No,
more than one, that would be I would be fine with that being ongoing content. But they delivered one. They evolved the content one time.
It's still
One
ongoing,
iteration
right?
does not mean doesn't get an ing.
I will say I do see your point about that because like take like Sonic Frontiers for example, they had a year's worth of content and they broke it up into 4 updates. One content for extra racing, one content for playable characters and stuff. So I do understand what you're saying. Like this was 3 years ago, and then they have one final expansion, which was the first and only expansion. So I guess between the time frame and then also it's only one, even though it's a big expansion. I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, you try
with
to
you.
plus Rep, you try to cap because you like Cyberpunk 2077.
Look, it's my opinion.
Man, here, Enrique needs to listen to you. Okay, like
It's my opinion.
You hear what he just said?
No, it's my opinion.
He heard another side and was like, "Oh,
No, it's my opinion."
Saying, you know what? You're right because that makes sense. Now, Enrique, I need you to take like your years that you have, not add them, but like 4 plus 6.
Look, it's my opinion.
You were 46, so you act like a 46-year-old and admit that you was wrong, and we can move on to the next topic.
You know what? I'm not going to admit I was wrong. Just like you won't admit that you're wrong about Chick-fil-A. So
Chick-fil-A is better than Popeyes. Come on now.
no, it's not.
Everyone knows this.
No, and look, it's my opinion.
All right.
So all right. So those are the nominees there. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Fortnite. All right.
Yeah. Fortnite in one day broke the records for most live players all at once, like 44.6 million. Like,
I was
if they
insane,
don't
yeah.
win that category, then like people have lost their mind. But
All right. Let's go to best performance. Ben Starr, who plays Clive in Final Fantasy 16, he did win best actor for the Golden Joystick Awards.
he did an awesome job. Yeah.
Yeah, Cameron Monaghan, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, plays Cal Estes. Stringer Bell Idris Elba. I don't know about his performance in Cyberpunk 2077, Slow-Mo. It was okay. It was good, but
I thought he was better than what you call him that played you're talking about Keanu Reeves? Yeah, I thought he was better than Keanu Reeves. I thought Keanu Reeves phoned it in on his character. But
He literally sounds like he phoned it in too, by the way.
yeah.
It's funny, like this time around, I didn't care for Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Silverhand, during my playthrough through the campaign, but I actually liked him more for some, I don't know why, in the Phantom Liberty DLC. But Idris Elba wasn't bad. I guess he wasn't speaking with his he's English, so he didn't have his English accent. He sounded more like Stringer Bell from The Wire.
Yeah, that's his American accent.
Yeah, but the American accent you could tell was off a little bit, like he enunciates certain things, but it was okay. Melanie Liebert, Alan Wake 2, Neil Newborn, Baldur's Gate 3. I think he plays what's his face, the vampire, right? Does he play the vampire?
I guess
he does. Astrio, I forget the vampire's name in Baldur's Gate 3, but he's hilarious. He is funny. And then Yuri Lowenthal in Marvel Spider-Man 2 plays Peter. Yes, Peter Parker. So those are the nominees for best performance.
For me, I think it's between Melanie and Ben Starr.
Yeah, I haven't played Alan Wake 2, so I can't comment, but I will go between Ben Starr and Neil Newbon. So I think Neil Newbon is the vampire in Baldur's Gate 3, and he's hilarious. Clive actually is really good, though. The voice of Clive
was excellent. Yeah. He did an excellent job.
All right, I'm gonna go. I don't want to do best musical score. Let me go. You guys want to cover any of these?
Have you guys talked about best community support yet?
No, we skipped that.
Big controversy.
Now I'm going to go there because that giggle, man.
Well,
best community support. Baldur's Gate
This
3,
is-
Cyberpunk 2070, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 16, No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
This is the funniest thing.
I just think
It's
Destiny,
so
like
funny.
this is so like I mean it's probably a timing thing, but the tone deaf it just comes off as tone deaf because man, that was when people saw that immediately it's Destiny 2 trending on Twitter.
The funny thing is that it just kind of shows that the voters have not been paying attention all year long to me.
Yeah.
Because if you had paid any attention to Destiny 2 and Bungie all year long, you would know that the community has not been happy with Bungie for a while. So it just the layoffs and the delays and then all the other stuff internally all getting kind of thrown out in the public makes it look even worse. But the Bungie community, the Destiny community has been upset with the state of Destiny all year long. So for them to be nominated for best community support in 2023 just shows these people ain't paying attention.
It's weird too because Overwatch 2 has similar issues. Like they canceled the whole PvE thing, and they got hell for it, rightfully so, because that was like the whole point of Overwatch 2. How did they miss Destiny? I don't understand how they missed what was happening.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think I haven't played Destiny 2 in quite some time. I have played Cyberpunk. Phantom Liberty just talked about that. I haven't played No Man's Sky in a while. Baldur's Gate 3 I'm playing. But just based on some of the community feedback and some of the conversation around Final Fantasy 14, like my understanding is that game's really kind of turned around quite a bit. So be curious to see if that game actually wins this particular category. No Man's Sky actually has two with Hello Games. They've definitely turned that game around as well.
That's true.
All right. All right, let's go back to, I don't know about best audio design. Let me look at best score and music here real quick. Your favorite game here, Alan Wake 2. There you go, Slow-Mo. Baldur's Gate 3. Final Fantasy 16, Hi-Fi Rush, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
I will say I'm not sure how Tears of the Kingdom's on here. Like I never once when I was playing the game said, "Whoa, this music is so good." Not a single time.
I felt like the music's subtle. It's not bad. It's not bad,
fine.
but it's not. Now, Final Fantasy 16, when I was playing that, I was like, "Whoa!"
Music in that game is fantastic.
Like some of the when you get in those icon battles.
Oh, the boss fights, yes, man.
Yes, it is. Wow. Yeah. What little I played a Hi-Fi Rush, the audio, the that was pretty good too. The music there. Baldur's Gate 3, I'm not so sure about that. Like that's not a game that really stands out to me where I think, oh yeah, this is best score, great music. Definitely Final Fantasy 16.
Music's good. I don't feel like there's nothing about it that is like I think so exceptional that it belongs here in this list. In my opinion.
Final Fantasy 16, man, the way they kind of intertwined some of those old Final Fantasy themes into the game. I don't know if you've caught that, Slow-Mo, when you're playing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that was brilliant. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. I got to go back and watch Advent Children now. Yeah, so that's the list. Slow-Mo's pick is Alan Wake 2.
I'd probably say Hi-Fi.
Yeah, I could see Hi-Fi or Final Fantasy 16 winning.
I do wish Sonic Frontiers should have been on here. It should have been on last year, and then they did a revisited album. Should have been on here this year.
All right, do you want to go with best art direction? Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Liza P, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
I don't know why the Nintendo games are here. I was going to keep it buck with you. The art direction for outstanding creative, artistic design, and animation. It's the same stuff they've been doing on those same IP for decades.
Look.
But Liza, I think I voted for Liza P. Liza P's art direction is fantastic. All the designs, the enemies, the characters, it all looks amazing. The environment looks awesome. That's the one I voted for.
I would my vote would go to Hi-Fi Rush here.
Yeah,
because it gives me the cell shaded aesthetic, that the Jet Set Radio vibes. So a lot of nostalgia there with that aesthetic for me.
I could get that. Yeah, if that wins, it wouldn't shock me if that wins too.
Yeah. All right, let's go to best narrative. Slow-mo's favorite game, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, that laugh, man. Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. This is a tough one for me to pick. I haven't played Alan Wake 2, but based on some of the reviews and some of the feedback that I've heard from people play outside of your feedback, Slow-mo, I've heard some great things about the narrative. Yeah.
I mean, I think the best actual narrative up there may actually be Phantom Liberty, even though I enjoyed Final Fantasy 16's story. But I'd also kind of feel like Phantom Liberty shouldn't be here because it's just DLC. And it's like, that's not, when has a DLC or expansion ever gotten this kind of consideration to be best narrative up against other full-fledged, full game content games? Like, I just feel like that's not right.
Fair, it is a big expansion. Like Phantom Liberty is like, it's not just like
it's a 15-hour experience.
Yeah, it's basically like a second.
You have to buy a base game to enjoy. You can't just buy Phantom Liberty on its own.
But it's just about the narrative, though.
And that base game came out 3 years ago.
Well,
so
I do agree with that because I hope everybody remembers that when we do Game of the Year for Resident Evil. But I mean, Phantom Liberty, it is like a 15-hour like second part of the game.
Yeah, I'm okay with it being there. I mean, I think like outside of it being part of a base game, like it's a 15-hour experience and the storytelling and narrative is good. It's in my opinion, it's some of the best that I've played this year. But I got like, this one's tough for me. Like Final Fantasy 16. I mean, that Game of Thrones ish storyline, the acting, Spider-Man 2, I thought was exceeding my expectations in terms of their narrative storytelling. Baldur's Gate 3, though, I mean, I'd probably lean towards Baldur's Gate 3 if I had to pick one.
I'll say it like this. Like, I think probably the best expansion I've ever played was Lair the Shadow Broker in Mass Effect 2. Best expansion I've ever experienced. That said, if that was nominated for best narrative at an award show, I'd be like, that's not right. Because it's just a portion of an actual full game. It's not the full experience. And Phantom Liberty, once you hit a certain level, you can just do Phantom Liberty. And it's essentially like, hey, I really liked a big side quest of a game. Let's nominate that side quest.
You don't have to play the whole entire base game to access Phantom Liberty.
I'm saying that after a certain period in time of the base game, you can then access Phantom Liberty.
Yeah, you can, but you can access it from the start too. Like you could just create a character and just go right through the Phantom Liberty.
Yeah, but that created character isn't starting at zero. It's like you have to, like, it's a new character. Yeah, it's a new character, but it's not a new character at level 1. Like they actually, give you the option to create a character just to do Phantom Liberty, but it's like that character isn't at like a brand new character that starts off doing all the other stuff. It's just, I got a problem with it. I don't like it. I don't like an expansion or DLC of a full game being nominated up against actual full games.
And I don't like it being a consolation prize, a sympathy trophy, or a Denzel Oscar.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
We're gonna edit out Logic's comments and his slander towards CD Projekt Red later in the show.
Hey, Denzel should have gotten his Oscar before Training Day because that wasn't his best work, but in Cyberpunk 2077 had its chance and it missed it.
He should have won one for fences.
All right, let's move to best game direction. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I mean, this is basically game of the year. I mean,
I actually think Alan
game.
Wake 2 is probably going to win this.
I could see that. Based on the
by the way they split things up.
They reviewed it.
People, protagonists.
Yeah, the way people reviewed it and everything. Yeah, I could see that.
I will say for Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think it should be on here because Tears of the Kingdom, you know, people love saying some sequels are DLC. This is literally the closest thing to that being true. Like the sky map is basically the only thing new about it. You know, the shrines are still there, which is great. But I just feel like the game direction is absolutely no different from Breath of the Wild. And if you look at some of the other games, like Super Mario Brothers Wonder takes the formula and changes it from the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Spider-Man 2 just does so many things that the other Spider-Mans just couldn't. I really think Tears of the Kingdom, you know, for game direction in terms of like, it says right there, like innovation in game direction and stuff. The biggest thing they do is like the Minecraft element where you can build stuff. But other than that, it is truly the same thing as Breath of the Wild.
See, that's where I disagree. I think the reason you just mentioned that Minecraft element, crafting, traversing the map, using some of the
that big.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I spent hours just, and it's literally sometimes it's a puzzle. They purposely put like items throughout the map, and you kind of piece them together. Like I was like, oh wait a minute, I can make a hot air balloon. I can get to the sky map without having to figure out how else to get there by putting these things, collecting these items. Getting like the what is it like? It's not like a battery, but it's almost like a battery. You can get one that
the charge, the Zonite charge.
The Zonite charge. Yeah, and so I just to me it was like my concern with coming into Tears of the Kingdom, like, is it just going to be another Breath of the Wild, or are they going to do anything to improve the game? And to me, they at least exceeded my expectations, and the way you can approach that game, and like you say, that kind of Minecraft, building and kind of solving puzzles and the traversal, like that's where I disagree. That's where I think it's in terms of innovation and design. I think it's not necessarily a clone per se. I don't know if you use the word clone, but
no, I don't think it's a clone. It's very, it is definitely Breath of the Wild with more content. I feel I wouldn't say it's a clone though, because like you said, they do a lot different, like with the depths, the sky map, and then building stuff. I just feel like for me, I don't know if it's enough to like make it okay. This game direction is different. It really separates itself from, it's like Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, and then the original Spider-Man 2 is completely. It's obviously still Spider-Man, but what you can do with Spider-Man and both Spider-Man, it's so different. There's a lot more to it. But I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is it's a lot of the things you did in Breath of the Wild with some cool stuff that changes the formula in slightly different ways, not like massive ways.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to game of the year here. The game of the year category. Let's see here. Alan Wake 2 again. Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I've already said this early in the show. Baldur's Gate 3 is my personal game of the year. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win this category, game of the year.
I really wish, and this could be a hot take, I'm not sure, but I do not think remake should be on this list. This game, Resident Evil 4, came out in 2005. How they should have a remake category, because it might be the best remake ever made. Maybe so. Maybe Dead Space. Who knows? But this is not. In a year where we have so many good games coming out, especially this year, this is one of the best years ever. To put a 2005 game on there, you could have put Jedi Survivor, you could have put Final Fantasy 16, you could have put Hogwarts, there's so many other games to pick, and you're going to pick a game that came out close to 2 decades ago. Like, to me, it just doesn't sit right.
Any other thoughts on Resident Evil 4, Slow-Mo, B-Money, Logic?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I feel like, I put out a tweet in regards to this. Like, if you're a studio who put out a brand new game this year and it was held in high regard, and the remake was took place in the category for game of the year, that's got to be a humbling experience. Like all the work that you put in, your game was put in, held in high regard, and yet still you got beat out by a game that released almost 2 decades ago. That doesn't sit right with me. I didn't think it was going to make the category. I know you guys kind of said that it could last week or whatever, but I don't like it. I think if it's going to be game of the year, it should be a new game, not remakes. I don't think we should allow that to happen, especially with the amount of great games that came out this year. If it was a down year, and we could kind of make it acceptable because there weren't that many great games, but there are a ton of great games this year. There's no reason why this should be in the category.
If you bounced,
I do agree with that. Yeah, go ahead, Logic.
It would be if you bounced Resident Evil 4 out, who would you have in?
I mean, personally for me, it would be Hogwarts, but I know like the whole political nonsense, it wouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Right.
But for me, it'd have to be Final Fantasy 16.
I would. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask you the same question.
Yeah. So me personally, I would put Starfield. Starfield has to be one of the most leading up to the game, the discourse was insufferable. People didn't play. There's so many opinions. I just wanted it to stop so badly. It was so insufferable. Even if the game ended up bad or good or whatever, just make it stop. It was so bad. There are definitely flaws. I think the biggest flaw is that people are kind of done with the Bethesda formula. It worked in the past, and it to their credit, some of the best games ever, right? But now it's like people want different styles of RPG. But I do think that the main quest, the Crimson Fleet quest, the UC Vanguard, Freestar, my goodness, the writing in this is their best work in my opinion. I can't believe how good the Crimson quest was. And, I still have issues with it, like New Game Plus, you lose everything, all the ships, all the money, and it's hard to get money and ammo in that game, and you just lose it all. There's a narrative reason for it, but man, I don't know if it's worth it. And then the 1,000 Planets thing, I don't know if they needed to do that many. But I would have put, the launch was big, and Xbox certainly needed that type of a launch. Whether or not the Metacritic met the game of the generation stuff that people were saying, I would have put Starfield there.
So Slow-mo?
Hogwarts Legacy for me. I think I would have put that in that category. And I know they act like the game never existed, right? Okay, but it's just
Harry Potter's trash.
What?
Okay. I understand that, like how we've had remakes in the category before. They've always been only. Thank you, Enrique. They've always been in when it's like a down year. Not necessarily like the kind of year we had this year where there's so much high quality games. So I understand Resident Evil 4 not being there is just kind of like, I agree with B Money, a bit disrespectful to all these other games that made a completely original game from scratch and didn't take content that was already high quality that was done 18 years ago and remake it. I'm fine with Hogwarts Legacy, Starfield, or Armored Core 6. Like one of those three being in that spot instead of Resident Evil 4. And I got no problem with any of the games in this lineup. But it is what it is. I think Hogwarts could have been nominated for 3 categories: Game of the Year, best art direction, and best music and sound. I think those 3 could have been for Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy could have been nominated for all 3 of those categories, but we have a award show where they're going to exclude one game because of what one person said that had nothing to do with the game. But we got in the Game of the Year category 2 games that were funded by a government that does more than speak ill of a particular community. They actually kill the people in that community and that within that country. But I guess that's okay. It's okay to support games made by a government that does horrible things over a game where somebody who is loosely tied to the actual game says something on Twitter you ain't like. Like, the hypocrisy is ridiculous, but
I will say
for
Hogwarts not to get anything, like you said, best score, it could have. I mean, the music in that is so accurate to like the Harry Potter movies. And I love, listen, Harry Potter is one of the best franchises, in my opinion, in like Hollywood history. Every movie got better, and it really was like this fantastic, you know, before the MCU happened, I feel like Harry Potter was that universe. I really do think it's so weird though that they put, and again, it could be the political thing, but I really think it's weird that they put a remake. And by the way, Resident Evil 4, for those who don't know, not even the highest. I'm pretty sure Metroid Prime, that remake, had a higher Metascore. So it's not even technically the best, you know, critic regarded, you know, remake. For them to put that on there, it's just such a it just sticks out like a sore thumb.
So I'll say, I hesitate to say this, but I think it's something that I personally need to get on record. My pushback on the notion of Starfield being in the category, and this isn't a pushback on you specifically, this is just a pushback on this whole topic that's gone around, is my heartbreaking problem with it is that, unfortunately, from a leadership perspective, from a production perspective, Todd Howard's statement that you may need to upgrade your PC in order to play the game, when the fact of the matter is, and I've talked at length about this entire topic of games and their poor hardware optimization and poor technical implementation, and why I would not entertain any discussion of Star Wars Jedi Survivor being in this category. You don't get to come out and say that you need to upgrade your PC to play this game when the fact of the matter is, the identifiable, evidentiary, objectively observable fact of the matter is that game was not hardware optimized on PC, and we can see firm evidence of that now. I was able to see firm evidence of it at launch because I have multiple gaming PCs here with multiple hardware sets, and I was able to test it. You don't get to come out and say that and have your CEO of the division giggling in the background, right? and then make a credible argument for your game to be, for that game to be in the Game of the Year category.
Yeah, it was tasteless. It was kind of like the Xbox, where they said, "Hey, if you don't want to play online, get a 360." It was just tone deaf and tasteless. And you're right. Like I have a lot of hours in Starfield. There are still things in the game, like New Aquila City. If you walk across that bridge that brings you into the city, your frames. And I have an AMD, driven PC, and AMD, they partnered with AMD. The frames drop like a rock, and I don't know why the frames in that specific area drop, because I picked the Freestar Quest, so I go there a lot. I don't know why that happens, but Todd, I feel like it just goes back to the Bethesda thing that I said, like, they have to change their ways. And I know that's hard because they've been successful, but you can't come out and say, upgrade your PC if you have issues. No, make your game optimized for these platforms, especially when the PC audience with the mods and stuff, they are going to really want to, get their hands on this game. You just can't say that.
Yeah, that for me is the straw that broke the camel's back. There's tons of other reasons why I don't personally feel like Starfield should be in. It's a matter of execution. The design and the aspiration, were great. The things that they tried were great. The sheer number of design vectors that they brought in were great, but the delivery, sticking the landing, the way it all pulled together, the sheer amount of downtime that I spent in the game, that's just a pet peeve of mine. I do not like idle time in games. It's a metric that my brain is tracking the whole time, and I don't like it. I mean, it pushes me in certain directions of what multiplayer games that I play, and I get this is a single player game, but every minute, every second that I'm sitting there holding the controller in my hand, not doing anything, is something that bugs me. And so there's just a lot of reasons why I feel like Starfield is a notable game. It should be paid attention to as something significant to the industry, but it just doesn't get over the bar and mantle high enough to get into this category, in my opinion.
The beginning,
I definitely get that. Yeah, that like the patch that's not officially out yet because it's in beta on Steam and only on Steam, not even on the Xbox PC app.
Yeah.
That beta has through testing shown that if you install that, your NVIDIA GPU will get over 20% performance increase.
What?
That's ridiculous.
and better CPU performance too, I might add.
Yeah, they only optimized that game for AMD and only AMD. There were AMD GPUs that were nowhere near the same class as NVIDIA GPUs that was given level performance at launch. And people saw that and was like, there is no way that a 7900 XT should be anywhere close to a 4090 in performance. That's ridiculous. And that was happening where they were very, very close, considering the fact that like any other game, no one is close to the 4090. Like 4090's got like on average like 30, 40 frames on average higher than the closest competition.
That's called
which
the
is
NVIDIA
a
tax.
7900 XTX and a 4080. And it's just like, why are they even remotely close? Why are people running a 4090 and getting below 60 FPS in the cities? And you got AMD fanboys online saying, oh, it's just because you got a bad CPU. And it's like, no, you're an idiot. That's not it.
Are there actually AMD fanboys? That's so. I have AMD, and I can tell you
Yes.
the game still wasn't optimized well. I mean, the new Aquila City thing was just one instance of why are my frame shopping if you partnered with AMD. I thought the whole point was like AMD, you know, this should run really buttery smooth. And it was also there were some planets, like some of the resource barren planets, there were some issues where you would like actually get a little glitch where it would show your character like just floating instead of actually running in third person. So it, you know, I really don't understand the idea of, hey, let's lock our thing on PC to AMD and then have everybody else who doesn't have that kind of suffer.
That's the NVIDIA tax.
That was a very interesting
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
public scenario that AMD was in, because they got called out for it, and people had data that showed that every time a developer or publisher partnered with AMD as an exclusive publisher, the games when they came out would seem to miss optimizations for Intel's GPU, NVIDIA's GPUs, would not have DLSS at launch or ever at all. And there are a few games, one game in particular called Boundary, which is made by Chinese developers, like a zero-G space first-person shooter. That game had already launched with DLS, launched with DLSS. When they became an exclusive partner for AMD, after it launched, they removed the upscaler out.
It's also
like
funny.
When people see things like that, they're just like, no, you are telling these developers to get rid of your competition to boost up your inferior upscaler. And when AMD went radio silent, when every tech tuber and tech media person was asking them these questions, they went radio silent for a full month. And when they finally spoke on it, they said, oh no, we're not blocking anything. But literally every exclusive AMD partner after that all of a sudden started dropping up with DLSS, and now they're working with NVIDIA too. And I'm just like, so you changed like your contracts in that full month. Like we're not dumb, okay? Like you changed what you were doing behind the scenes. There's a reason why you wasn't speaking publicly on it. And then once you got all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted, then you came out and said, oh, we're not blocking anything. Why would we do that? And it's just like, we're not dumb, bro. Come on.
Yeah. Let me grab the super chat here real quick. James Thomas with the $5 super chat. How VR, AR get a category, or adaptations for that matter, but remakes, remasters couldn't get one when there were more of those than the latter. So great question. One for Keely, but thank you for that super chat. All right. All right, gentlemen. We're at midnight, a little past midnight. So we're going to wrap up the show. All right. Who wins Game of the Year then, out of the Game of the Year nominees? I'll go throw to the panel. Go to you, Spegdretti. Who do you predict's going to win?
I was pretty sure about Baldur's Gate 3, but the love affair for Alan Wake 2, I'm going to go with Alan Wake 2 and say that the recent release upsets the apple cart.
All right, Alan Wake 2. B Money.
BG3 is going to win.
Baldur's Gate 3. Game Logic.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I think the votes will go for Baldur's Gate 3.
All right, Slow-Mo.
I'm gonna go out of left field and say Zelda. And
Oh
I'm gonna
wow,
say
Zelda.
why.
Okay.
Because for the last 9 years, the Game of the Year winner has released before June. Actually, before July. For the past 9 years, the actual winner of the Game of the Year for this award show has been a game that's released before July. And Zelda is the only game on this list that can say that. So that's the one I'm choosing.
Huh. Okay. I'm going to go with Baldur's Gate 3. No surprise here, though. So,
yeah.
All right. All right, gentlemen. So do me a favor, everyone in the live chat, please, if you haven't done so, hit that like button. It helps the channel. We have about 160 people here watching and only like 59 likes. So please do be solid and hit that like button. If you're new,
So a lot of hate watching out here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and if
you got another super chat in too, BRAP.
Oh, okay. Let me grab that here real quick. I must have missed that. Let me find the super. Oh, here we go. All right. C Wubby U with a $2 super chat says if you could add a category. I don't know what category I would add.
I would do remakes just because, you look at next year, we have Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Super Mario RPG this month, and I'm sure there's going to be more remakes coming. I would really do a remake one. There seems to be a consistent flow of that, so I think it's enough to say, hey, let's give them their own, spotlight.
Okay.
I'm a fan of simulations. I would break, like B Money said, I would break sports away from. I wouldn't have it racing. I would have it called vehicle simulation, so that you would have racing games in there, but also games like American Truck Simulator and Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I would just put all those sims in their own category and let them fight it out.
I would do a comeback game of the year. Kind of like a category that you see in sports, usually typically for an athlete that got injured and then he, rehab, came back, played really great, or a player that sucked and then got good, that kind of thing. But we see this often in the video game industry where there's a game, say like Sea of Thieves, for example. Sea of Thieves launched with no content and then got a bunch of content, and then streamers started playing it, and it kind of grew a community and became successful. I think that kind of game would be for whenever it actually started to grow, be eligible in that year for like a comeback game of the year category. For like this year, you could say that would be Cyberpunk, and then they could stop trying to shoehorn Cyberpunk into every other damn category.
Can I just say too, and please don't hate me, anybody, because it's just a joke, but man, Xbox would win that award a lot. Comeback Game of the Year, they would win that one.
Oh man.
Sea of Thieves, Halo, maybe
That's pretty funny.
Like, please don't hate me, but I'm just saying that would be like the Xbox award.
Well, I don't know if they would, because the toe that I'd like to stick in the door of that category is I would just like there to be something. Maybe this is where Spectre, your QA person, can come in. I would like there to be something that holds back from teams that do it deliberately, right? My feeling is like Fallout 76 should not be able to compete for that category, right? Cyberpunk, in my opinion, shouldn't be able to compete for that category. Rainbow Six Siege should be able to compete. No Man's Sky should be able to compete, right? But teams and publishers that deliberately push schlock out in an attempt to get over and just hope nobody will notice, like that, I don't think you should get a chance to boomerang back around and get an award.
Yeah, so basically, if the game is broken and beyond unacceptable, you shouldn't be allowed to get the award if you're just fixing what shouldn't have happened in the first place. Content issues, it's kind of like different. It's like, okay, it could have been a publisher rushing you to make the game, and so the game works fine, but there's just not enough content there, and people, it needs a little bit more. But Fallout 76, like, unacceptable. and broke the hearts of many Fallout fans. So yeah, I agree that definitely would be up. Cyberpunk too. The game with the launch, it was so buggy. So I see what you're saying.
So BRAP, you still don't get your feelings healed.
But that's why I think there should be best DLC / expansion of the year.
Yeah, that I think Cyberpunk should get.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against that.
Give that
idea.
the Phantom Liberty and stop trying to shoehorn it in everywhere else. Phantom Liberty over here for best narrative. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind.
Game.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of games have like really good DLC, and a lot of them don't get paid attention to because like people move on. There's so many games releasing, and a lot of DLC doesn't get touched. So I think if we start highlighting it, we might be able to get more people to actually go back and play the content.
True, I think that's an award that actually Ubisoft would get a lot of years, because tons of Ubisoft DLC comes out that nobody notices.
I've got a new category: best subscription service of the year.
That's another like, hey, let's give Xbox something, man. This is getting like, and again, don't hate me, but like that's basically what that is. It's like, guys, they gotta win something. It's getting to that point. Like,
well, maybe that should be a category by itself. Let's have an Xbox tax award that Xbox gets every year, and then that'll stop 99% of the controversy.
Yeah, but then they're gonna say, "Oh, see now you're just making fun of Xbox media bias. This is a conspiracy. Look at this." It's like it's never gonna end.
I do like money suggestions because I'm thinking about what would be eligible for that category this year, and you would have like Burning Shores from Horizon Forbidden West, and then you would have Phantom Liberty. You would have Final Fantasy 14's expansion. You would have I think.
You can have Remnant expansion.
Yeah, the Remnant expansion I just played, which is still eligible because it's the eligibility period stops tomorrow. So you would be able to fill 5 slots.
Wait, would Destiny
of games every
count?
year? That would count. Okay. A Destiny expansion would count if it was good.
Yeah. I wasn't sure about like ongoing games. Like, does that count? Like, if MOBAs like DC Universe Online and stuff, and like does that count?
I actually think it would be perfect for ongoing games because that's what they do. They drop annual or biannual expansions and content, like Warframe does that. That kind of content, and that would highlight how good that content is, so that people be like, oh, I completely forgot that game was out. It's got a great expansion. This would get eyes on the games, that people will realize, oh, it's they made so many changes, they updated their engine, all that stuff. Maybe I'll jump back into it. So I think I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then we could have given that award to God of War Ragnarok last year and Spider-Man 2 this year.
A lot of people might not catch that.
God. Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, that is funny. All right, gentlemen, we're going to wrap up the show. Big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Please, if you haven't done so, smash the like button. Helps the channel out. If you're new, consider subscribing, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And want to give a big shout out, big thank you to Spagdretti for joining us this evening. First time guest. And Spagdretti, it is tradition here that we offer the panel and guests to provide their mostly Twitter information if you want to be found. So if you want to be found on Twitter, let everyone know they can find you. And thank you again for joining us this evening. Yeah,
thanks for having me on. It was really fun talking to you guys, and I think we had a pretty good show with some really good topics too. A lot of good back and forth. And my Twitter is just Spagdretti. So if you want to follow me, I post a lot about video games and some sports as well. So feel free to follow me if you want.
And let me make one comment. Spagdretti, it is incredibly rare for us to have a guest on the show who can both find the things to appropriately compliment Xbox for the things that they do, but also criticize them for the things that they do. I would contend I'm the only panel member that's met those qualifications in the past, so it's nice to have somebody else who can do the same.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you saying that. I have a pretty extensive history with Xbox, so BRAP actually said this earlier, but there's no reason to give your divine loyalty to a product it's okay to criticize something you like, and also okay to praise it as well. It's a balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know you're a PC gamer, so you can't.
Yeah, you don't count some up. Yeah, it's Big Dirty to Logic's point. Like, it's true. Like, we don't see many people discuss Xbox. Like, it's either an all or nothing mentality, which is really weird. So it's actually kind of a breath of fresh air to have someone on who can, praise Xbox, but also be critical, and not critical in the sense of like criticism without any without any reason, right? Like, oh, Xbox sucks, blah blah blah. Like, someone actually saying, oh, these are some of the things that I dislike about Microsoft or Xbox in particular. I don't like that they've done this, and give actual examples, based on your own personal experience, and articulate those in a way that aren't fueled by emotion and aren't based on console wars. So it's a rare thing. So certainly appreciate that perspective and the ability to do that, because like Logic said, it's very rare to see that.
Thank you.
And because you have done so good, this is where the hazing part comes in. So everyone that guessed, and they do a great job, and we definitely want them back. You have to tell everyone what your social security number is. You just throw it in the chat. And I'm kidding.
No, I get it.
We don't haze nobody.
Where is there is hazing? You actually have to do a one-on-one podcast with Gaming Forte. That's part of the hazing. And survive for about 30 minutes. Slow-mo does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
I don't know how I do it too.
I do hope that
big shout out to Gaming Forte, though, by the way. We missed him. We're just joking. We miss Forte.
I do hope that it does lead to more honest conversation about like gaming in general, because we did talk about it earlier, how extreme it gets. I really do hope people like have more conversation like this with everybody, where it's really just based about what we're calling it, like we see it in our experiences, and agree to disagree, because it really doesn't always have to be, like you said, all in or all out or something like that. It could just be an honest conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Spigretti. And it's again, it's rare to hear someone say that, like, in this community. That's kind of sad. Like, it's certainly appreciate that you are able to do that. And I think even on this show, like, I didn't agree with everyone's perspective, especially about Cyberpunk. But it was but it's the kind of discourse that should be happening, where people exchange different opinions, different ideas, and no one is screaming and foaming at the mouth and shouting and yelling Xbox tax, or
not everybody has it out. Yeah, not everybody, like, there's no agenda. It's just sometimes people genuinely don't like what Game Pass has to offer. It's fine. That's why there's options, and it's good to have options.
Exactly. So it's just it's nice that, and you're right, we should be having that conversation, because the conversation shouldn't be fueled by conspiracy theories, misinformation, disinformation.
Yeah, because then it gets so nasty and just hateful, and it's so unnecessary.
Absolutely. And it makes the community look bad too. It makes us look bad. Like we talked about earlier in the show, the perception of gamers back, 20 plus years ago, was that of, we were like nerds.
Frowned upon. Yeah, it was frowned upon.
I mean,
you couldn't go out and say, hey, you want to play COD tonight? People would literally in the classroom look at you and say, what? And then you'd get made fun of. It was just how it was.
Yeah, you'd be ostracized. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 110%. So thank you again, Big Dreddy. We definitely, would like to have you back on the show again in the future. And again, appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
All right. And then Slubbo, DPS tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. Damage Per Second podcast on my channel, Slow-Mo Backslap, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and
Game good channel.
Oh, hey, look, man. My channel's smaller than his. But no, we're going to have a good time. I'm going to have a couple of guests with us. So, come check us out. We're going to do the thing.
It's about
great show as usual.
It's not about quantity. It's not about quantity. It's about quality.
Always.
Yeah. So
right.
No, I'm just joking.
I'm gonna get out of here though. I gotta roll. But you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, man. And then B Money, always a pleasure, sir. If you want to be found, B, I know you're not on social media much anymore, but if you want to be found, let me know where they can find you.
No, I'm not talking to these weirdos. Don't come find me.
Let me tell you something.
You see me when you see me.
Let me tell you something. B has been on BRAP since like day one, like going on what 9 years. B,
Yeah,
8
something
years,
like that. Yeah,
8 years.
Long time.
And B, I knew you before you were on BRAP, interacting with you, and when you were on the Inner Circle podcast. I know things are bad when you are no longer interacting with gamers on Twitter.
Yeah, man. These dudes are weirdos, man. I'm tired of the nonsense. These people make my head hurt. You can't hold conversations with idiots. It's just
No.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, well, all right, B. Always a pleasure, sir. And then Game Logic. I don't know if you want to be found. I think last week you did not, but I'll give you the opportunity if you want to this week.
Yeah, Sunday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern time on the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube.
All right, thank you, and please check out DPS tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time as well. So, good night, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Again, do me a favor, hit that like button, helps the channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Everyone, have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend as well. Enjoy playing video games, but most importantly, have fun doing so, because that's what gaming is all about. So we'll catch you next time. Thank you.